Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. Marvel Magic Case Files. Chapter 1 Chapter Birth. The devil will attract the devil. He is destined to stay away from the life of ordinary people. He will find his own abnormality, which is beyond his control. The Supreme Mage looked at the bright star in the eastern sky and said to his disciple, "His talent is far higher than yours. This is not necessarily a good thing. He will encounter the weirdness that you have never encountered in his future life. There is no need to envy him, Modu, Cassilis. It is painful for him to have responsibilities that do not belong to him be imposed on him. Jezebel's stomach hurts. She's been abandoned, or rather, she's abandoned herself. In this huge New York City, she has no relatives. When she fled her country for a marriage arranged by her father, she carried only a few dollars with her, but now she has paid all of them to the smugglers. If it weren't for the little hammer she picked up on the boat, she might not be able to keep her virginity. But she has no regrets. Even though the small space on the smuggling boat is only enough for everyone to stand, and even defecation is difficult, and people keep getting sick and fever, and are thrown from the boat, she has never regretted escaping from that country. She didn't want to marry old Cora next door, who was already bald. Since she was 10 years old, Jezebel always trembled when old Cola's sticky eyes slid over her body, but when she was 19 years old, old Cola asked her father to use when 10 new shekels were offered to marry her. Her father agreed without hesitation. Not only because Jezebel's younger brother who has never served in the military needs a large enough wedding room in the future, but also a large group of younger siblings in the family needs enough money, not to mention that a pilgrimage to Jerusalem also requires a lot of money. She wanted to scream there are very few Haredi families as poor as theirs, but they live in a community where the poor are all poor. The men in the family can only nod and chant, and all the sources of income are women. And their family couldn't afford her to study mathematics and science. Jezebel doesn't want her future to be like those women who hold their children and stand in a daze on the dusty street. She has seen their appearance before, and it will only come alive on the day when the government subsidy arrives. Jezebel could imagine that if she married old Cora, she would definitely become a lifeless puppet like those women. It's not that she didn't resist, but the only thing she incurred was her father's beating and double labor. Her father hoped that she would be a docile wife in the future, at least, a wife who could make old Cola pay. She kept chanting the holy name of the Lord during that time, hoping that a prophet would take her out of this place, and then suddenly one day, the water from the tap turned into blood. Such a phenomenon it happened for 7 days in a row, but her father said it was just rusted pipes and didn't take it to heart. Jezebel, who had only studied the Pentateuch, was pleasantly surprised. She thought it was a revelation, just like Moses convincing Pharaoh. So without hesitation, she stole the dollars her mother earned while she was working, ran away, and came to this country, which flaunts democracy and freedom and is said to flow milk and honey, looking forward to a new life. But how can a young girl who has only studied basic religious knowledge and nothing else find a job? No matter how hard-working her hands are, she can't sign any contracts without ID. Jezebel can only live with a meager daily salary. For this reason, she even needs to disguise herself as a pagan and wear a scarf to cover her fair beauty, so as to avoid harassment from street hooligans. But one day, she felt a fit of nausea. A sister who was also an illegal immigrant who worked with her told her that she was pregnant. She couldn't believe her ears. She was still a young girl. The more she thought about it, the more flustered she became. After checking her body, she confirmed her chastity. But as her belly grew bigger day by day, she also dreamed of a man soaked in light who said to her, "Birth him, you will be called holy." This frightened her, because this is the god of pagan stories, and even if the god was real, she didn't think she could be blessed by God, and she was not Mary, and Jezebel didn't know if it was an illusion or not. The real Holy Spirit. But she was really reluctant. This child was destined to be a child without a father, and she would not find a Joseph to marry in a hurry. Anyway, the teachings did not allow her to have an abortion, so she gave up seeking help from a doctor. So Jezebel dragged her cumbersome body and worked diligently, but the meager salary was not enough to support the nutrition of the mother and fetus. She lost weight day by day. Her hands and feet were weak, and it was even difficult for her to work. Losing her job also caused her to lose her place of residence, but fortunately, a priest took her in after hearing her story, although the priest didn't believe it, but out of sympathy, so that she could wipe it during the day. She cleaned the pews, got some bread and the wine left over from the communion, and she could live in the parking lot behind the church, and the priest provided her with bedding and hot water. Jezebel was very grateful for the priest's help. As the child in her womb grew, she became more and more disabled, but she still forced herself to eat food, just to allow the child to be born healthily. She had a premonition that on this starry cold night, her child would be born, but her body was already in terrible condition due to long-term malnutrition, and the child in her womb was like a parasite, constantly and greedily absorbing the mother's body. Nutrient. When the Ancient One mage wearing a yellow cassock appeared in front of her, she could only shed tears, barely got up half lying, and begged the Supreme Mage to save her child with a weak voice. I followed the stars. Master Guyi knelt down beside Jezebel, pointed to the star in the sky, and told Jezebel, "Your child is about to be born, and he will be mine." Disciple. The Venerable opened the box in his hand, and put the gold, frankincense and myrrh inside beside Jezebel, and used magic to maintain Jezebel's vitality like a candle in the wind. When the child was born, Master Ancient One saw ring-shaped wounds on all 10 fingers of the crying baby, and red light flowed from the wounds, but Jezebel didn't see it. "I can't save you anymore, your life was too bad when you were pregnant." In the eyes of the Supreme Mage, Jezebel was surrounded by soft white light, and it was these white lights that made her collapse. Jezebel's body stabilized, but when this different child was born, the positive energy also dissipated. And even the magic of the Venerable could not keep Jezebel's body going any longer. On her deathbed, she shed tears and closed her eyes. "Salomon," she said. "Salomon, damn it, he will be the one who creates miracles." The Ancient One said. Jezebel nodded with the last of her strength. "Your soul will go to heaven." Afterwards, a huge white light beam shot up into the sky, and an inaudible hymn resounded across the sky, and Jezebel closed her eyes. The Supreme Mage wrapped the child in a red holy cloth, and the wound on the baby's finger healed immediately, leaving only 10 circular marks. His Holiness opened the portal and brought the lifeless Jezebel and her newborn child back to Karmataj. When the priest of the church was awakened by the huge light beam, he came to the parking lot and only saw the gold, frankincense and myrrh left on Jezebel's bed, and the young woman disappeared. After the Supreme Mage returned to Karmataj, those young disciples immediately surrounded him, and they had already noticed the strange situation in the city. But His Holiness stopped them from asking questions, handed over the child to them, and later buried Jezebel in a mausoleum near Karmataj. On the night that Salomon Damanit was born, the number of abyssal creatures that invaded the earth suddenly increased. Although they were all the spontaneous actions of low-level demons, it was enough to make the mages of Karmataj panic for a while. In the end, the Supreme Mage went to the abyss in person and visited several abyss lords to end the riot. For the wound on Salomon Damanit's finger, the Supreme Mage called it a stigmata. The Ancient One Mage wrapped it with a holy relic to stop the bleeding, and then used magic to heal it, and the stigmata disappeared. However, Salomon Damanit himself was deeply trapped in overlapping memories. After he was brought back to Karmataj, he was handed over to the care of several female mages with experience in raising children, but when he opened his eyes after opening his eyes, he no longer cried, but showed confusion. There are many different memories in his mind. Sometimes he is a dead house that stays in the room all day, living an ordinary and uninteresting life. Sometimes he is a mage who has been favored by the gods, then fell into madness due to paranoia, was reduced to ashes by another god, experienced another 300 years, became a lich, and was finally killed by 12 paladins. Sometimes an archmage from Golarion. The memories of the old ones became the lackeys of the old ones. Not only that, but with the departure of the Supreme Mage, the stigmata on the 10 fingers emitted light and shade, but before the soul finally fell into madness, the stigmata were all extinguished. Salomon Damanit can finally sleep peacefully. I don't know if anyone can see the stalk of the notification of conception. The actor Tilda of the Ancient Master also played Gabriel. It is really appropriate for the Supreme Master to inform. End of this chapter. Chapter 2, Natural Magic. This is the story of your birth, Salomon. The Ancient One Mage rubbed the 5-year-old Salomon's fluffy and curly long hair and said. His Holiness has always been very satisfied with Salomon's performance, because Salomon never showed the capricious crying that a child should have, and His Holiness can always see Salomon thinking. His Holiness was not surprised by this performance. After all, Salomon's birth was created by heaven. Although he was cut off halfway by the Ancient Master, his special features will still be shown. For example, he has some magical powers without having to make a contract with Vishandi. This ability was manifested when he was 5 years old, that is, in the millennium, and it caused a little trouble for it. There are no spellcasters on earth who use their own magic power to cast spells. As long as ordinary people have the right method, they can refine magic power from life force. In the West, this kind of power is called magic power, and in the East it is called chi. But no matter what, both titles are the necessary energy to drive magic. But those spellcasters who refine their vitality are not very powerful without exception. except for a few gifted mystics, they are all wild wizards. The identities of the casters of self-generated magic power are very special, and they are more or less connected with the outer dimension. For this reason, many mages of Kamataj asked the Supreme Mage at this time, and they were worried that this source of magic might have an impact on this pink and jade-carved child. This is because he has more vitality. The Supreme Mage pulled Salomon, who was sitting beside her, in a daze, and she spread his palms, so that the apprentices could see the unsolved problems that only special vision could see. She said, "The essence of magic power is a kind of energy that exists in all kinds of life, because he is a natural saint, and his body has been strengthened by positive energy, so he has a stronger vitality." And the too huge vitality was automatically converted into magic power by the stigmata, and his magic only used his vitality, and had nothing to do with the outer dimension. So before signing the contract with Weiss Handy, Salomon had the ability to release spells independently. Not only that, his body also possessed stronger power and senses than ordinary people. It's just that the Supreme Mage didn't tell anyone about the other things brought by the stigmata. She didn't think other apprentices needed to know these things. Salomon's clothes are more conspicuous than those of other Karmataj apprentices, because his clothes are made by the Supreme Mage with crimson relics, in order to prevent the stigmata on his hands from running wild. And after wearing this dress, the stigmata are no longer visible to ordinary people. "Is it heaven? Or is it from Emperor Weishan?" asked an apprentice. "No, it's just the plane of positive energy, not heaven, and it doesn't come from Emperor Weishan." The Supreme Master said, "The magic power we have obtained is also positive energy, and Tiantang Mountain is also a plane of positive energy. It doesn't make any difference. If his body has undergone negative energy, that is, black magic, then he will not be able to gain weight." Salomon Damonet puffed up his face in dissatisfaction. He kept insisting that he was fat as a baby, which made several female apprentices couldn't help but pinch his plump cheeks a few times. The Supreme Master has been dispelling the worship of Vizandi in Kamataj for many years, although Vizandi is the suzerain of Kamataj and herself. But one of the reasons why Kamataj was able to obtain magic power from Vizandi instead of other magical entities was the intervention of the Eternal God. The Eternal God is one of the 5 gods in the universe. And it was also because of the Eternal God's instruction that the Ancient One was able to sign a contract with the magical entity Vizandi. In fact, the Supreme Mage was a little hesitant about accepting this disciple at first, because even Emperor Weishan had his own little thoughts. Although the Eternal God stands behind the Supreme Mage, Emperor Weishan is the suzerain who provides the magic power, and Emperor Weishan has already designated the candidate for the next Supreme Mage. Putting Kamataj, who has actually been out of control, back under control, they want to elect a Supreme Mage who is obedient enough. But the Ancient One Mage is really too powerful, and the relationship with eternity is too close up. Emperor Weishan couldn't guarantee whether he would push Guyi to Dormammu and become their enemy after he tore up the contract. They couldn't afford the bet, so they could only quietly wait for Guyi to die naturally. The birth of Salomon Damonet gave the Supreme Mage a new hope, a hope that the earth would be independent before the new Supreme Mage grew up, so that Kamataj would not only be reduced to a puppet of Vizandi. She also told him the story of Jezebel, trying to put Salomon's feelings on the earthlings. She told Salomon that his existence is the continuation of Jezebel's love. "How did you do it?" His Holiness asked Salomon after the apprentices had left. The Supreme Mage deliberately touched Salomon Damonet's long, fluffy, soft black curly hair. Before the human cubs grew up, this hairstyle made him unable to distinguish between men and women, making him look particularly cute. Even the Supreme Mage I couldn't help pinching 2 plump and red cheeks. "I just want to warm up the soup. I'm reading the book of Roger Eyre and I don't have time to eat, so I just want to finish the soup that I didn't finish last night." Salomon spread his hands, appeared extremely innocent, and he did not lie. In fact, Salomon saw the Ancient One Mage immediately when he had self-awareness, and he quickly sorted out his position, but because of his low desire character, he didn't even bother to be surprised. Then Salomon took a closer look at those golden fingers. The 10 stigmata on his fingers not only gave him physical fitness far beyond ordinary people, but also had the memories of 10 dead archmages, which contained a lot of magical knowledge and life memories. Of course he could distinguish these memories. Where did it come from? It's either Faerun or Grey Eagle or Eberron or Klein, even the world of the Inner Sea. But he still wants to complain about why there are so many mages who love necromancy in the memory he accepted. Could it be that he was hammered to death because he was too evil? Also, why is his golden finger similar to the soul gem of a demigod lich? Does all this imply that he will become a lich in the future? While this golden finger is his physical feature, it also brings some side effects when he unlocks the stigmata to gain knowledge. He will receive a lot of information shock, because these great mages all have a long lifespan. However, he is just a slumbering dead house, and now his soul is not strong enough to accept all the memories. This is an endless loop, so Salomon must start to learn the spells of Karmataj and improve the essence of the soul before he can receive the spells in the stigmata. After Salomon received basic education, he was allowed to read some magic books in the library. And the book he read was the Book of Rojail, also known as the magic book Solomon's Key. It is not the original version, but a translated version after deciphering and translation. King Solomon has nothing to do with it. It was written purely by medieval warlocks. The book encourages killing and blood sacrifice, which is a typical black magic, but because the content is all nonsense, without any useful information, it is thrown in the corner of the library, and is regarded as one of the terrifying textbooks for newcomers to understand black magic. 1. Salomon was thus able to read the book. And the Book of Enoch, which actually records the knowledge of the angel Rojail, is not allowed to be read by the present Salomon. This is equivalent to what parents say when they scare their children: if you don't sleep, there will be big bad wolf / witch / Voldemort and other strange things to catch you. Pure scare education. However, Salomon watched it with great interest. After all, he has only accepted some memories of tricks, and he has never been exposed to orthodox mysticism. And Salomon's natural character and the excitement of those mages who first tried magic in memory also made him try to use magic tricks to heat the soup. In a world without spell slots and magic nets, he could only read a long list of spells, autonomously control the output of magic power. But not only did he fail to turn the cold soup into hot soup, but a flickering spark crackled out of the gate, which worried the mages who were practicing their spells, hence the opening scene. The supreme mage patted Salomon's head lightly again. She naturally knew that Salomon's origin was not simple, but she didn't intend to tell anyone about it. She didn't even use the Eye of Agamotto to watch it. In the future of Salomon, although she obtained the Eye of Agamotto from the eternal god, as the Eye of Agamotto is the magical weapon of Emperor Wysand, it is hard to say that Emperor Wysand did not leave any hands or feet. His Holiness seemed to be thinking about something. One type of magic power could only support one system of magic. For example, Domamu's cultists couldn't learn Kamataj's portal. The Venerable knows that the stigmata will bring knowledge, but Salomon's magic power seems to be able to support the operation of those magic. You need to practice more, Salomon. After a while, the ancient master reached out and pulled Salomon over, and she took out a glass of juice from the portal. You can try to freeze this drink. Get up, come, try, don't be afraid, I'm with you. Salomon was a little moved. He looked at the encouraging eyes of the supreme mage, and did as she said. Then the supreme mage took out a straw and inserted it into the cup, and walked away with the cup covered with thin frost. Salomon rolled his eyes. Well, the supreme mage is indeed a little different from what he imagined. In his initial impression, the supreme mage should be an extremely majestic and loving magician, just like Dumbledore next door. But whose mentor said a lot of touching words, just to trick the apprentice into freezing a drink with a spell? Master Guyi doesn't look like an old man with a crooked nose and a sweet tooth. End of this chapter. Chapter 3: Magic, Material, Law, Principle. Since Salomon could use a little magic power, the supreme sorcerer let him join Karmataj's magical training. You must know that the magic system of Karmataj, which obtains magic power from the suzerain of the other world, is equivalent to the magician on the crystal wall system of Toril, or it is also called a magician or a magister. This is a serious magic profession. In addition to the basic magic flame spells, there are also dimension spells from the Wysandi series, which are also compulsory courses for mages. Karmataj. Not only that, but the mystical works collected by the supreme mage from all over the world can even allow the apprentices who have not successfully signed the contract to refine their vitality to cast some magic that is not of the Wysandi series. Because Salomon has not signed the contract yet, and the supreme mage is unwilling to let him have an intersection with Vizandi too early, and Salomon is still too young, too much refining vitality will affect the development, so he can only take another compulsory course of Karmataj Masters, martial arts. The body is a container of magic power, and only a strong enough body can hold more magic and cast more spells. That's what His Holiness said, and everyone did so. Many spellcasters in Karmataj have lived here for generations, so school-age children are not uncommon. Whether they grew up in Karmataj or foreign students have to undergo martial arts training. This magic has to be practiced from a young age. You need to train your muscles and bones outside, and you need to practice your breath inside. Only if you punch fast can your magic hit others. I heard that. Lianji, get ready. This man from Hong Kong, the mage surnamed Zhang from the Guardian Temple, is in charge of Karmataj's physical training. When he demonstrated boxing skills, he popped out a few words in Cantonese from time to time, but it seemed that everyone except Salomon could understand them. Not long after Salomon learned to put on a posture, the mage surnamed Zhang patted the back of Salomon's head suddenly. Hey, you don't need to be in shape. You are so young, you can't punch. The backhand is weak, the forehand is not good, what kind of beiji is it? Go, play all the way. The disgusted Salomon walked aside with his mouth pursed. The Hong Kong temple is the most particular about physical skills. If he says to practice more, you should practice more. At some point, Master Guyi also put on sunglasses and sat aside. His authentic Hong Kong accent almost made Sa Luomeng stared out his eyes, but Master Guyi didn't realize it at all. Because no one can see her except Salomon, she has already activated the mirror dimension spell at this time. Come on, don't you want to practice beiji? Then go learn Wing Chun. Teacher, I can't understand your accent. Salomon replied with a black face. His impression of Cantonese is only baa and ba, and he can't understand any other sentences. Tisk tisk tisk, youngsters need to learn more. Master Guyi shook his head. Tomorrow your senior brother will take you to apprentice. What are you studying? That's it, let's learn Wing Chun. The next day, the mage who took Salomon to visit the master was the son of a respected mage in Karmataj, Master Hamel. This brother of Salomon has a round face and doesn't seem to like to smile very much, which makes Salomon, who is by his side, a little nervous. Thank you, brother, but... Salomon shook his head at a poster on the street, because the brother tried to give him a toy suitable for his age. I don't like Captain America, yes, any superhero, none. Not Superman, not Batman, not any toys, thanks. In fact, this little mage Wang is also very nervous, all because his father told him last night that he must take care of Salomon and never let him have any accidents. This is the precious apprentice of the Supreme Mage, although according to reason it can be said that the mages in Karmataj are all apprentices of the Ancient One, but everyone's starting point is different. A mage who can release magic independently must be one level higher than others. Although Master Hamel doesn't know what a saint is, the fact that the Supreme Master attaches great importance to Salomon will not change. In some people's eyes, Salomon is the candidate for the next Supreme Master. So when Salomon's eyes were fixed on the stall outside the Hong Kong temple, Master Xiao Wang could only take out his meager worldly money to treat Salomon to a bowl of wonton noodles. Salomon, who picked up the chopsticks again, was no stranger, and Master Xiao Wang didn't care about it, because the food in Karmataj was a hodgepodge, and there were all kinds of dishes everywhere. Brother, is our Karmataj so poor? Salomon asked innocently, pointing at the bits and pieces on senior brother Wang. It's not that Karmataj is poor, it's that I'm poor. Master Xiao Wang rolled his eyes. In fact, Karmataj has stood for thousands of years, and naturally there is no shortage of contacts in the secular world, and Karmataj has also started a business, which is to attract terminally ill patients to Karmataj for treatment. Although the ancient master does not distinguish between rich and poor, the rich and the poor are treated equally, but there are always some rich people who come to ask for it. The money and contacts left by these people are important sources of income for Karmataj. In addition to combating some dark creatures, such as vampires and dark wizards, the wealth left by these guys is naturally owned by Karmataj. After all, magicians also have to make a living. It is said that Master Guyi still has stocks of several listed companies in his hands. When the western United States was developed, Master Guyi bought land there in exchange for money and land in New York. To put it bluntly, Karmataj and Karmataj's white gloves may be the largest landowners in New York. It's just that Karmataj pays attention to penance and doesn't need so much. After listening to Salomon, he asked, then why are you so poor, brother? Master Xiao Wang breathed a sigh of relief, covered his heart, and talked about the past. His father, Master Hamel, took away all the living expenses allocated to him by Karmataj, saying that he wanted to help him save money, buy him a house when he gets married. After all, not everyone lives in the temple. Master Xiao Wang said with a melancholy expression. But when he found out that his father and the guardian of the Hong Kong temple, Wu Gu of Coral Bay, played mahjong to export his living expenses, he no longer believed Master Hamel's words. As for how Hamel can play mahjong without a hand, that's another matter. Come on, where are we going? Salomon asked while eating noodles. The place we're going to has just publicly accepted apprentices for a few years. If it weren't for Karmataj's relationship with Hung Men, I don't know if they would accept you, a ghost. Master Xiao Wang couldn't hold back, and gave himself after ordering a bowl of noodles. He said, if it doesn't work, you should learn Beiji hard at Karmatage. Karmatage's enemies can't be defeated with that gentle boxing. Salomon curled his lips in disdain. It's not that he didn't understand the intention of Master Ancient One. She wanted Salomon to have a bond in this world and make him love this world. That's why she told him the story of Jezebel and asked him to spend more time with Karmatage's mages interacted to let him know the beauty of this world. This can't be called useful either. Although he has the mentality of being at ease, as an adult, he has his own independent thinking. Although he really likes this world, because it is a little more interesting than his original life, but the interesting part is magic, not anything else. He is the man who dreamed of going to Hogwarts since he was a child. As for the others, well, he is an adult with his own worldview, and has always upheld the attitude that no one will offend me, and I will not offend others. Even if the ancient master said that he is a saint or something, if he is asked to be a hero, Salomon will definitely refuse. He firmly believes that all problems in the world can be solved with 2 sentences, the first sentence is about your business, and the second sentence is about my business. Of course, it cannot be said that it is wrong for the Supreme Mage to put his hope on him. After all, there will always be fools in this world who will disturb other people's quiet life. At that time, Salomon, who is on the side of human beings, will have to save humans fight. The Supreme Master has already calculated everything. End of this chapter. Chapter 4 The Ring of Weiss Handy. There is nothing to say about the apprenticeship process. Salomon is very grateful to Mr. Ye for not disliking him for being a foreigner. In the next few years, because of the education plan arranged by the Supreme Master, Salomon's daily schedule is Karmatage, Hong Kong Temple, Boxing Gym, Hong Kong Temple, Karmatage. You have to get up at dawn every day. And Salomon gets along best with the guardians of the Hong Kong Temple. The reason is very simple, it is still a matter of taste. In their opinion, ghosts don't know how to eat beef offal, but Salomon can eat a big bowl. There are no bad people who can eat it. Salomon also admired himself very much for being able to return to the routine of his student days. Ever since he started working, he always closed his eyes after get off work, and then it was dawn. Young is so good. But for a body with a single-digit age, such a burden is still a bit heavy, but fortunately, the power of the saint is slowly taking effect, and Salomon has grown taller, stronger and more responsive than children of the same age fast. During this period of time, the ancient master did not lose Salomon's cultural education, and various language courses took turns, Hebrew, Sanskrit, Greek, Old English, Celtic, etc., these both with the language that must be learned to read grimoires. Salomon endured the pressure that he shouldn't have at his age. Salomon had seen the memories brought by the stigmata. When those archmages became apprentices, they also copied scrolls and taught classes. But which mage tower still teaches melee combat? He didn't plan to learn from the magic warriors in the inner sea world, fighting with a knife in one hand and magic in the other. In addition, Baron Mordo gave Salomon the nationality. For this reason, he had to avoid the British Child Rights Protection Agency, because they tried to find an adoptive family for Salomon, and they also wanted to send him to school. An old lady was contacted to adopt him. But Salomon didn't want to do this. After finally entering the magic world, he sent me to primary school again? But fortunately, the Supreme Mage also adhered to the principle that enough is enough. After Salomon had 5 years of close combat education, when Salomon was 10 years old, all the brothers who were a few years older than him in the boxing gym fought, but when he died, the Supreme Mage began to arrange for Salomon to learn the magic of Karmatage Vizandi. Salomon had been waiting for this day for a long time, and he was not satisfied with only using tricks. I don't know if you should take the test. In the quiet room, the Ancient One Mage said, but you also know the way Karmatage obtains magic power, but you are different, you are born with magic power. Ancient One did not want Salomon to fall into the contract of Vizandi like her. This kind of suzerain provides magic power for the caster. Although the mode where the spellcaster works for the suzerain can quickly improve the combatability of Karmatage mages, but in the case of a step closer, it is subject to the suzerain. But this is understandable, because even Vizandi cannot master human desires. They are very worried about the emergence of a magician who can bring disaster to the earth, so they can only cut off the possibility of Karmatage being powerful from the source. But Guyi took a small advantage because she was number 1 who signed a contract with Emperor Weishan. Weiss Handy was not too demanding in the contract, and she also had a huge room for development. Therefore, The Ancient One specially prepared something for Salomon. She was holding a silver ring inlaid with sapphires, and this ring immediately attracted his attention, not because of the gemstone, but because the magic on it, like Sauron's ring. But the problem is, even your innate magical power can't compare to Wetishandi's endless energy. I can bear the first backlash of Wetishandi's magical power for you, but besides this ring, there are only two rings can be added together to fully control the magic power of Emperor Wetishan. The ancient master pushed the ring in front of Salomon, but after that, you must face the test alone. I will do it, teacher. Salomon bowed his head and saluted the supreme mage. Just as he lowered his head, there was a mark on Master Guyi's forehead, but it disappeared quickly. Let's get started, take this Tianneng first ring. The supreme mage said. Salomon nodded, and carefully picked up the ring with the tips of his thumb and forefinger. Nothing strange, no burning, everything seemed normal. Immediately afterwards, Salomon put the ring on his right index finger. The ring, which was originally not suitable for children, automatically narrowed the aperture and firmly bound Salomon's index finger. Mage Ancient One didn't breathe a sigh of relief. She quickly stretched out her hand, unfolded the mirror space, and covered all of Kamataj on the mountainside. Thief! A loud noise came from the sky, and a huge tiger's head appeared in the void. The tiger's eyes shone with dazzling light. Create cracks! Thief! Where is it? The mark on the forehead of the ancient mage was completely revealed. But no one could see it except Salomon. Under the protection of the supreme mage, none of the mages in Karmataj has discovered the anger of Weishandi. Teacher! Salomon was a little anxious. He didn't know what price the Ancient One would pay for this. Although the Ancient One adopted him for his own purpose, the Supreme Master was his teacher after all. The Ancient Master did not respond, and Salomon saw the sweat dripping from the Supreme Master, so he could only sit down, sit cross-legged and enter meditation according to the basic teaching of Kamataj. He imagined that there were 10 rings of different colors in a dark space. Salomon did not arrange the positions of the 10 rings, but arranged them in a certain order from low to high. He imagined the first ring, which was also the lowest ring, and he imagined that this ring was emitting light, which was self-hypnosis, and also to unfold the stigmata. In his imagination, the ring gradually exudes light in 4 colors of orange, olive, reddish-brown and black. Of course, black means no color, while in the outside world, a magic power rises from his body, finally condensed on the ring. The Supreme Mage gradually discovered that his pressure began to decrease. This was not because Weishandi had extinguished his anger, but because Salomon was gradually taming the magic power in the ring. The unique magic power brought by the stigmata was constantly resisting the high temperature brought by Weishandi's magic power. If not for the stigmata, Salomon would be roasted soon. Hogarth looked around, but he didn't find the thief who stole the magic power of Weishandi, and he became more and more irritable. Even though he became the Trinity Weishandi, he is still a big cat in essence, a big magic cat. He has full patience. When he found that the magic fluctuation in the ring gradually disappeared, he gave up the pursuit. Anyway, there are still 2 rings, and sooner or later the thief will show up. The Supreme Mage opened his eyes tiredly, watching Salomon wake up from meditation. How is it? Ancient One asked. I don't know, but, when I opened the first stigmata, the magic power in the ring was tamed. In fact, Salomon was also a little confused. Burning sensation, and he was also ready for the memory shock that came with it, but it didn't happen. This time he could browse those memories very gently, chew and absorb them slowly, and his own magic power it also suppressed Weishandi's ring. It seems that I guessed correctly, Salomon, said the Supreme Wizard. You do have the 10 commandments. Ask for investment. End of this chapter. Chapter 5 Shocking Gossip. What 10 commandments? Salomon asked puzzledly. Have you read the story of King Solomon? I've roughly heard some. It is said that King Solomon used 72 pillars of demon gods, and the initial construction of the Temple of Israel was all done by him. However, according to speculation, the construction process of the temple is likely to have the help of demon gods. And the 10 rings are evidence of wise men recognized by God, is also the reliance of using angels and demons. The Supreme Mage said, King Solomon performed a miracle only once, and in the end he returned the ring to heaven with his own will. What does this have to do with my stigmata? Under Ancient One's disapproving gaze, Salomon turned his head away. He really hadn't read the explanation about the stigmata. Magic originally originated from the theory of idols. It is to obtain the attributes of a subject by imitating the whole or part of it. The simplest magic is seeing and hearing. The supreme mage knocked on Salomon's head with a folding fan. Make him turn his head back again. She continued, and the stigmata are the marks of the Son of God's execution, but the scars on your fingers are not the scars of the Son of God, but the marks similar to King Solomon. I don't know what to call this kind of marks, so I wrote will be called a stigmata, and you are also called a saint by me. This is different from the saint recognized by the Roman Church. And based on the idol theory, you must have some of King Solomon's abilities, for example, to rule or serve. So, teacher, you are not sure whether I can tame this ring. Salomon said resentfully, it's not that I can't accept such an experiment, but please let me know in advance next time, teacher. Mage Guyi looked aside. Anyway, nothing big happened, don't mind. The whereabouts of the other two rings, the supreme mage also mentioned to Salomon. The Ancient One has always believed that the current Salomon is not enough to pass the test brought by the other two rings. Why? Salomon asked. Because there is not only the magic power of Kamataj on the earth, Salomon, not all magicians on the earth get their magic power from Vizandi. Master Guyi said, not all the secrets come from Vizandi. Some of the mountain emperors come from Sithorn's chaotic magic, some from Dormammu's dark dimension, or other strange things, even devils and demons. As for our Karmataj, an organization known as the Magus Priory to the outside world, one of our main responsibilities is to clean up these black wizards. Okay, then teacher, can you tell me how Sithorn or Dormammu came from? Well, this is also a missing link in basic education. I have been worried that someone will hear their call after knowing their names, and fall to these dangerous ancient gods. But now it is private teaching time, and no one I will come to disturb you. The Supreme Master said, what you hear next will be deeply hidden in your mind. I swear by Emperor Weixin, no, I swear by the source of magic. Salomon said. The Supreme Mage nodded, and began the ancient gossip. Sithorn is a life conceived by the god of life, one of the earliest life forms on earth. He is called the Great Shadow or the god of black magic. Other life forms that were conceived are called Gaia, the mother of the earth, Seth, and so on. Billions of years ago, the natural vitality of the biosphere on the earth gave birth to a group of ancient gods, and then they began to kill and devour each other, and some even turned into demons. Sithorn is one of them. In order to end this fate, Gaia, the mother of the earth, and the god of life gave birth to Yadam, who kept destroying the demonized ancient gods, and then fell into an extremely powerful god-eater. Thorn and Seth together can't compete with it. In the end, Sithorn and Seth were forced to exile to other dimensions in order to avoid being devoured by the god-eater. As for the whereabouts of Yadam, it is said that he combined with the sun to form the sun god. No one can be sure whether this is true or not. And the legacy of Adam gave birth to a new batch of gods, including the Norse pantheon. God King Odin has a very powerful power of Odin. He fought everywhere, ruled the Asgard, created the world tree, and divided the 10 realms in the universe. At the same time, various gods appeared in other places on the earth, including the Jade Emperor and other earth gods. There is also Gaia, the mother of the earth. Gaia and another son Uranus gave birth to Chloros. The sons of Chloros include Zeus, which is the Greek gods in the storybook you read. I don't know exactly what happened in it, why the 10 worlds of the world tree became the current 9 worlds, but anyway, in the very long past, the gods group, the managers created by the eternal gods, happened to the earth and these new gods conflict. All in all, in the end these new gods left earth more or less before human civilization came into existence. The Supreme Mage paused, and Salomon quickly poured a cup of tea for the teacher, and used magic to keep it warm. The Ancient One nodded with satisfaction, and she continued, the next thing I want to talk about is the Trinity of Wysandi. One of them, Agamotto, is the first Supreme Mage. He specializes in foresight and truth, and he has insight into the universe. And cast Kamataj's treasure, the Eye of Agamotto, besides the Amulet of Agamotto, Crystal Ball of Agamotto, etc. Hoggoth is a very ancient and powerful magical entity whose true form is said to be incomprehensible to most mortals, so Hoggoth usually appears to human magicians in the form of a tiger. Sometimes he also appears in the form of a human face. The Hoggoth Road and the Hoggoth Mist he created can help travelers pass through the realm of nightmares, and the Hoggoth spell can cause people to sleep and forget. And the last one of Emperor Weixin is also an ancient god named Aya Shutu, another daughter of her god of life. She is related to the sky, wisdom, and reason, and is the origin of white magic. When the existence of Sithorn threatened the earth and even the entire universe, Ashatu gave birth to Agmato, yes, Agmato, one of the Trinity Vizandi, but in fact she is a genderless existence. Here's another piece of gossip. Well, yes, Salomon, your magic is improving very quickly. The Ancient One mage picked up the teacup and felt the appropriate temperature. At the same time, she lowered her voice and blinked. Like speaking ill of others behind their backs. It is said that Hagos comes from an ancient and mysterious race, and he is also the last survivor of this race, which has existed for millions of years or even longer. One day, Hagos met Ashatu, who was exploring in different universes. He taught Ashatu a lot and helped her understand the value of other lives. He later continued to travel with Ashatu. So Hagos is very likely to be Agamotto's father. Of course, this kind of thing cannot be said to the outside world. Salomon opened his mouth in surprise. Although human ethics cannot be used to judge the behavior of these magical entities, this is no longer a description of your circle is really chaotic, but... Teacher, what does this have to do with my test? Salomon asked. Of course it has something to do with it. Master Guyi said, while enjoying the afterglow of the sunset. Britain has collected a large number of artworks from all over the world, and these artworks are collected in the British Museum, but unfortunately, these artworks are all related to those earth pantheons. Although these new gods have left the earth, there is still some power left in those things. Even if it is just a little bit, it is an incomparably huge amount of energy for mortals. And if you go there to get a ring, it means that you have to face the guardians of those powers. This is not an easy task for you now. I think you should first take the things you can learn. It's better to learn magic first. The Supreme Mage's tone became serious. Remember, even if you get another ring, you can't put it on right away. Find the remaining two and put them on at the same time. The ability will allow you to fully control the magic power of Emperor Weishan. End of this chapter. Chapter 6, The British Museum. So when I get the other ring, I need a hobbit lest I be tempted to take another ring. Salomon asked. Yes, wear all the rings at once to completely control the magic power of Emperor Weishan. The Supreme Mage nodded, and she said, this experiment is to verify whether you have the ability to control the magic power of Emperor Weishan. So I also need a good person who can't say my baby. I know this kind of temptation comes from the bottom of my heart. Salomon rolled his eyes quietly, because he thought of Vizandi's the high temperature emitted by the ring when it comes into contact with magic, but where can he find someone who has no contact with magic? As if seeing Salomon's doubts, Master Guyi sold an apprentice very readily. Master Wang has not yet signed a contract with Emperor Weishan, and what he is learning now is only the secret method of Kamatage. There is no achievement in Weishandi's series of spells, and it does not involve Weishandi's magical power. Salomon and the Supreme Master happily decided on the candidate for the Hobbit. After saying goodbye to the teacher, he returned to the room. This time he had a good harvest, and he could slowly browse the memory of one of the High Masters. Salomon didn't plan to leave Karmatage again until he learned the first 2 rings of spells from the mage. Yes, even the Child Rights Protection Agency can't even try to find him, right? That's right, unplug the network cable in the room. The wizarding world doesn't need a network. Well, temporarily. Salomon already has a plan. He plans to use the magic of Vizandi to run the magic of Toril or other worlds. You must know that the magic power provided by the magic net is the most basic true ether, or mana. As long as the spell structure is correct, any type of magic power can be used. Of course, because Emperor Weishan's power is too bright, some necromantic spells still need his own magic power to support them. But things backfired. When Salomon was studying the spells of the Toril universe, Baron Mordo came to the door. This mage, who is also a disciple of the Supreme Mage, is quite friendly to Salomon. At the same time, when he saw him, Baron Mordo always mentioned stupid things like I hugged you when you were young. Good, well, I finally know why I was so uncomfortable for a while. The reason why Baron Mordo came to Salomon was to train Salomon's ability to use magic weapons. Kamatage's magic tools may be somewhat different from those of other families. For example, the scepter of the Life Tribunal. In fact, it has nothing to do with the Life Tribunal. It is more like a whip than a scepter. The biggest function of boots is to allow people to double jump. Not very good, but not so bad, is it? This is something that even a devil with a hairspray hand can't do. You have learned how to fight with your body, haven't you? Baron Mordo smiled like a fox who has stolen a chicken. Now you have to practice how to use your weapon in battle. We are not wizards in fairy tales who hold a stick and cast magic. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, Brother Mordo, just enough melee combat. Salomon tried to reject this training, but Baron Mordo saw too much cheating and slipping child. He twisted up Salomon's back collar and twisted him out like a kitten. This is a misconception, Salomon. Mordo said gently, creatures from outer dimensions will not give us time to chant spells. Salomon gave up struggling completely. Although he couldn't see the expression on Baron Mordo's dark face clearly, he knew that he couldn't escape. So, the Supreme Mage asked you to come here to get a magic weapon, and you asked me to be your hobbit, the stronger mage Xiao Wang said dissatisfied. To tell the truth, Salomon didn't expect that Master Wang's face would look so old. Master Wang said, "Do you think I am Frodo? I think I look like Sam." "It's the same size, my friend, but you can't cook," Salomon said, "and I think I need your fists." "Have you finally realized the fact that fists are better than magic?" Master Xiao Wang said happily, "Look, even if I failed to sign the contract with Emperor Weishan, I can still defeat you in training." "Bah! If you didn't take advantage of me to recite the spell." At this time, it was 2007. Salomon, who was 12 years old, had already practiced some Toril spells and Kamatage spells, and he had mastered the basic magic flame plasticity. The two of them arrived in the city of London, which seemed to have just rained. Through the portal of Karmitage to the London Temple. The masonry was slippery, but the rain seemed to cleanse London's air, and a little ozone made it much cleaner. It's still not as cold and crisp as Karmitage, but it's better than some big cities. The only problem is that Salomon accidentally stepped into a puddle, and Karmitage the allotted shoes were all wet. "Don't show that expression, Salomon. Motu has applied for British citizenship for you, you have to get used to this kind of weather." Master Wang seemed a little gloating. "The Supreme Master seems to want you to go to a secular school, right here in England. To be precise, it is the basic education of logical thinking. Most of the mages who come to Kamatage have studied in the secular world." Salomon shook his head, lifted his legs and continued to walk forward. The shoes under his feet creaked. It creaked. "Mathematics, physics, chemistry," the Supreme Mage said, "this is the cultivation that must be possessed. But I didn't learn." "It's probably because you were born in Karmitage, you don't even have medical insurance. But I think Karmitage will create an identity for you after you get the magic power." Salomon concealed apart the truth. The Supreme Master asked him to tell others that he had already signed a contract with Emperor Weishan. No one could have imagined that Salomon was just using the magic power of Weiss Sandi. The Supreme Mage was very familiar with this set. This is how the Ancient One obtained the power of Domamu, but now it is used on Emperor Weishan. And this magic weapon needs to be held by someone who is not so deeply related to magic, so as to avoid backlash. Salomon glanced at Master Xiao Wang from the corner of his eye. Sure enough, Master Xiao Wang was still a little brooding about not being able to sign the contract. "Don't worry." He comforted Mage Wang and said, "The Supreme Mage must have his own intentions, but you are better than those who can use spells now, aren't you?" "You mean in terms of not having to sleep?" That counts." "So, what are we going to do?" Master Xiao Wang said with some dissatisfaction. "First of all, we have to go in." The moment Salomon and Master Wang entered the British Museum in Russell Square, north of New Oxford Street, they felt something was wrong. The magic here seemed to be much stronger than other places. "Did you find anything?" Master Xiao Wang also found something, but he looked around, but found nothing. "Look there." Salomon pointed to the exhibits, where there is a bronze statue of Shiva, a wooden statue from the Nicobar Islands, a marble statue of Ambika, the murals of the Parthenon, and the Pharaoh Amen. The head of Hupter III, the most important thing, is the sacrificial vessel of each earth god system, and each god system has it. Although the Supreme Mage had already mentioned to Salomon about the divine power stored in those cultural relics and magic tools, this huge power still surprised him. "You mean, we are going to rob the museum?" Master Xiao Wang lowered his voice. "Could it be that the magic weapon is a collection here?" "No, it's not." Salomon also lowered his voice, and the two whispered nervously, "Is it the guardian here? Didn't you find it?" Salomon's eyeballs looked sideways. "Those spirits." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The fourth guardian of the museum. It seems that because of the magic on Salomon's body, the invisible spirit bodies here became excited visibly with the naked eye. "I feel a little uncomfortable." Master Xiao Wang looked around suspiciously, and he felt a cold breath wrapping his body. In fact, what Salomon and Master Xiao Wang didn't notice was that the two of them were dressed a bit conspicuously. Salomon was wearing a robe made of red holy relic cloth. This is to avoid excessive spreading of the stigmata, causing his brain to be burned and his soul to be annihilated, and Master Xiao Wang is wearing the usual brown practice clothes of Karmatage. In addition to brown, grey and khaki can be chosen. But in the 21st century, no one wears it like this anymore, especially in autumn. Even if there is air conditioning in the museum, suitable temperature and humidity are important conditions for preserving collections. After seeing the security approaching, Salomon hurriedly dragged Master Xiao Wang to the depths of the museum. He thought it was the sneaky appearance of the two of them that attracted the attention of others, but he didn't realize that his aesthetic sense had changed. Assimilated, because almost every mage in memory wears robes. Passing through the large atrium with a dome composed of 3,312 triangular glass pieces, Salomon and Master Wang arrived at the Egyptian pavilion, where many collections were snatched by the British army from the French army when Napoleon was defeated in Egypt. The number of collections exceeds 10, and this is also the most magical place. What are you looking at? Master Wang seemed to be a little irritable because he couldn't see what he should see, but Salomon still pressed him firmly on the public bench, and he said to the fat and angry Wang, "Go into meditation so you can see those things." To be honest, Master Xiao Wang's behavior did interfere with public order. After all, sitting cross-legged on a bench is not so civilized. In order to correct this mistake, Salomon stayed away from Master Xiao Wang. "Don't look at me, I don't know that person." When Mage Xiao Wang opened his eyes again, he didn't find anything wrong with Salomon. Instead, he was shocked by the sight in front of him. Countless huge and distorted spirit bodies hovered over the collection. If it is the power in a single collection, it will not attract these spirits, but the collections that the British have snatched from overseas are too many, and they are displayed separately according to different civilizations. The power of the same god system resonates and amplifies, and these are in the ghosts wandering in the world also need to maintain their own strength. Did you see it? Salomon saw that Master Wang came back to his senses, and he hurried up. I saw it. Master Xiao Wang seemed a little unbelievable. He stretched out his hand, wanting to touch the spirit bodies, but seemed to be worried about disturbing them and withdrew his fat fingers. "We actually put there are so many spiritual bodies that have not been dealt with here. It's because someone controlled them." Salomon narrowed his eyes and looked forward, quietly making a gesture. He said, "Can you still punch? Now we are going to face them." "What?" Master Wang was a little confused. "Are you hungry again, cuties?" An old lady wearing a dark blue wide-brimmed hat stretched out her finger with a ring in front of her face. Her white hair was protruding from the brim of the hat. An orange-red ribbon with a light blue feather tucked in it. She was wearing a dark blue thick coat that was a bit exaggerated even in this season. The soft light blue fluff at the neckline covered her chin, and the length even touched the pearl earrings on her earlobes. She stretched out her hand and said with a smile, "Well, you can devour their souls, but then go back to sleep." The old lady was referring to two tourists standing in front of the exhibit, and she was standing behind them. No one could see her except Salomon and Master Wang. Without waiting for those spirit bodies to move, a beam of positive energy ray hit a spirit body rushing towards the tourists. The distorted ghost let out a silent wail, with a painful expression on its face, which was extremely elongated in horror. "Who's there?" The old lady's expression changed instantly, and she stared back viciously. Although Salomon has already told Master Wang not to show mercy, but... "Are you sure you want me to hit an old lady?" he said hesitantly. "Of course, but it doesn't work now, you stupid donkey, you don't have a chance to sneak attack, you better protect me." Salomon rolled his eyes, and he said, "You have wasted the opportunity to attack." "Hey, ma'am." Master Xiao Wang tried to greet her, but was quickly knocked down by a spell from the old lady's ring. "I smell the stench of exotic magic," she said with disgust on her face. A large amount of magic power flowed from the ring to the ground, driving the spirits to approach. The little Wang mage and Salomon who just got up from the floor could only keep backing up. The old lady stood there, and she said, "I am a Magi turtle, the 4th generation guardian, these blind passers-by can't see. I use my secret method to control these dangerous things around me every day. Pagan spirits, and prevent wizards like you from awakening them." Her voice rose higher and higher, as if she were a god on Mount Olympus, and Salomon was Tantalus about to be punished. Salomon kept backing away to avoid the magic power and spirits spreading over. After getting up, Master Xiao Wang stood in front of Salomon with a face of horror. He raised his fist, trying to drive away the approaching spirits. Fists are useless against these things, brother. Salomon calmly took out a handful of silver powder, and as he recited the incantation, the silver powder was sprinkled on Master Xiao Wang, turning into white spots of light. Rush over and take off her ring, now those spirits can't get close to you. Are you sure it's useful? Master Xiao Wang said. In his opinion, the current scene still has something to talk about, but after Salomon cast the spell, the inexplicable fear in his heart has disappeared. He shouted, Mrs. Tuttle, we are not. It's Miss Tuttle. Well, Miss Tuttle, we don't want to wake up these spirits. Yes. Salomon could only say, this is not our purpose. Aren't you wizards? Amaji Tuttle did not hear or see Salomon casting spells, and Salomon's spells and casting movements were blocked by the king's figure. We. Master Xiao Wang didn't know how to answer for a moment. After all, he hadn't signed a contract to conduct magic training. Don't talk nonsense, Wang, the way she restrains these ghosts is to let them devour their souls, and where do the souls come from? Salomon no longer hesitated, he put the other party in an evil position with words, so that Xiao Master Wang moved, because the conversation was about to collapse soon. Okay. Master Xiao Wang no longer hesitated, he rushed up, vigorously avoiding the shackles of the magic power, and rushed past the spirit body. Then he was bound by the magic power flowing on the ground, and the huge force will Master Xiao Wang pulled down and knelt on the ground. Amaji Tuttle has not fought seriously a few times. Before that, the wizards who came to the British Museum to look for spirit bodies were all small characters who knew a little magic and only knew a few spells. Amaji Turtle, one of Vizendi's rings. After Master Xiao Wang was restrained, Amaji Tuttle was very proud. In her opinion, Salomon and Master Wang could not escape today. She seemed to think that Salomon and Master Xiao Wang had met before. Like those low-level wizards in the world. Salomon didn't stop casting spells, he swallowed a grasshopper back with disgust. For the jumping technique, the grasshopper's hind legs are necessary materials for casting spells, which is not the most disgusting thing. I must learn to cast spells without materials. Even this disgusting feeling did not interrupt the spell. After the spell was cast, Salomon stepped on the bench and ran forward. The end jumped up. The Book of Weiss Sandy contains the most powerful known white magic and defensive magic in the world. The spells recorded in it can never be used for offense, but can only be used for defense. Therefore, Salomon can only use the magic in the stigmata fighting with the spell given by his memory, such as the grasshopper leg. It is for the jumping technique. Salomon's jumping distance tripled, and he jumped straight to Amaji Tuttle. The moment he landed, Salomon's speed was twice as fast as before. After landing, Salomon took out a small dagger from the pouch on his waist and threw it at Amaji Tuttle. Seeing the sharp dagger cut through the air, it was about to touch Amaji Tuttle's coat. Suddenly, an astonishingly huge magical force erupted from around Amaji Tuttle, pushing away the approaching Salomon and the little mage Wang lying on the ground. Salomon rolled a few somersaults on the floor. He felt as if explosives had exploded next to the back of his head. He couldn't see anything, and he was even semi-conscious for a few seconds. Can't even think. He felt that his brain was about to be shaken. Finally, Master Xiao Wang, who woke up faster, twisted him up, and he regained consciousness. But he still felt that half of his eyes were black, and the souls of all the passengers he saw seemed to be separated from their bodies, and there were some colorful halos around them. What do we do now? Fuck her. End of this chapter. Chapter 8 Inexplicably owes someone. The Supreme Master reminded Salomon more than once. You are a spellcaster who steals Vizendi's magic power, said the Venerable, so don't call Vizendi's name carelessly, especially before you have obtained all the rings. Emperor Weishan. Master Xiao Wang muttered to himself, we have caused big trouble. Amaji Tuttle used the spirits as weapons while restraining them. She used the magic power on the ring to order these deformed, huge and densely packed spirits to rush over. Master Xiao Wang tried to force them away with his fists, but it was useless at all. His fists always passed through the spirit body, and he got nothing but a cold touch. If it weren't for the magic attached to him, the current mage Xiao Wang would have been possessed by a spirit body or devoured his soul, and the positive energy rays shot by Salomon from his fingertips could not stop the spirit body from approaching at all. What to do? Master Wang shouted. I don't know. Salomon was sweating profusely, admitting that he had underestimated the guardians of the British Museum. The guardian can freely use Vizendi's ring, but Salomon can only obtain magic power secretly. The output of magic power between the two is simply incomparable. Suddenly, like a poisonous snake wrapped around his neck, a soft and cold feeling came from behind Salomon, and he felt a pair of warm hands caressing his cheeks. As if the night came with the owl flapping its wings, Salomon lost his vision. "Call my name, son of man." A soft voice rang in Salomon's ear, "I am the dew, I am the sky, I am the spring thunder, I am the goddess of the city, the goddess of the bird and the snake, I will be your shield and spear." Salomon calmed down, his education had let him know who this was. "Praise be to you, Tritaglia, as gorgeous as a snake and 1,000 changing dragon." Note, Tritaglia is the third born. "I will offer you olive oil, figs and woolen robes." Salomon said sincerely, "In the name of the goddess holding the golden spear. In the name of Eteria, goddess of the sky." Following Salomon's voice, all the divine powers involved in all the collections of the British Museum were agitated, like boiling water, and Master Wang stared at the scene in front of him dumbfounded. A girl composed of divine power appeared behind Salomon. She wore a Greek Akkadi-style helmet, held a spear and a huge round shield, and was as tall as the ceiling, but Salomon had nothing seeing that. He just followed the instructions of the voice to recite, and the sound made every time he prayed was like a bronze spear hitting a round shield. "In the name of Anemotes, goddess of wind. In the name of Gorgophna, goddess killing Gorgo. In the name of Partenus, the virgin. I order you. Stay away from this world." The girl behind Salomon stretched out her palm, and the surging divine power defeated these spirit bodies, and at the same time lifted the shackles that had been imprisoned on them. Amaji Tuttle couldn't believe what was happening before her eyes. In her view, she was the guardian who silently guarded the world. Since her great-great-great-grandfather, they have been guarding this place. This responsibility while tormenting them, it also makes them proud. It is the mission of the Tuttle family to protect these spirits, because of the infinite power of this ring. "Hurry up!" The darkness dissipated, and Salomon regained his vision, but before he could open his eyes, he called out to Mage Wang, "Take off her ring." Amaji Turtle, who has lost her spirit body, doesn't know how to fight at all. She has never received magic education, and she has never practiced even the most basic self-defense techniques. After Master Xiao Wang reacted, he rushed up, and the old Amaji Tuttle couldn't resist at all. Master Xiao Wang easily grabbed her palm and pulled the ring off. "Ah! My ring!" When the ring was taken off, Amaji Turtle was no longer invisible. Her clothes were torn and her short white hair made her look like an old madman. Salomon quickly took Master Wang's hand and ran out of the museum. A small white snake climbed up Salomon's leg silently and very fast, got into his clothes, and finally took a cold touch wrapped around his arm. "Are you all right, ma'am?" a tourist approached. "What are you looking at? You can't see me." The magic power left her, no longer supported her brain, and Amaji Turtle's nerves began to age, and the already wrinkled skin shrank even more sharp. In the eyes of others, she is talking nonsense. "I'm the guardian. I'm the only one who can stop you from being destroyed." Amaji Turtle started yelling, her eyes flashed like crazy, and she kept yelling at the people around her, trying to prove that she was a saint who lived on the sins of others. But some tourists have picked up their mobile phones and called the police. Master Wang and Salomon stood on the street, out of breath. Master Xiao Wang patted his thick chest and said, "You are really skilled, Salomon. It's better, brother." Salomon rolled up his sleeves and looked at the little snake sleeping on his forearm. All of this comes at a price. Salomon knew very well that he didn't call Athena's name, and Athena appeared by herself. Didn't the Greek gods leave the earth long ago? He must ask the Supreme Mage clearly, otherwise he will not be able to settle down. "Okay, where are we going next?" Master Xiao Wang grinned and said with a lingering fear, "Is there any more adventure? I think we need to rest for a day, brother." Salomon motioned Master Wang to stuff the ring into his pocket. "Let's go back to Karmitage." Because this new ring was added many things that should not be there by Amaji Tuttle, such as long false nails, Salomon handed the ring to the Supreme Mage and asked her to help change it. Let this become a normal ring. After all, many magic weapons in Karmitage are from the hands of the Venerable. Presumably this will not be a big problem. But Salomon's main purpose is not this. When the Supreme Sorcerer saw the snake wrapped around Salomon's forearm, she motioned for Salomon to calm down. The celestial god group has not always paid attention to the earth. I have told you the reason why the new gods left. The Supreme Mage poured 2 cups of tea, but I have never said that they will not come back secretly. Now there are more than Athena, and Hecate, etc. All. Salomon's eyes widened in surprise. Of course not all of them. After all, there are so many new gods staying on the earth, it will still be a bit crowded. And now is not the age of worshipping gods. Humans now worship science. Even if gods appear in front of them, they will only think about it. How to capture and dissect. Of course, I don't hate this phenomenon. After all, magic only blooms in the souls of a few people, and only technology is the future of mankind. The Venerable pushed a cup of tea in front of Salomon, and Salomon drank the tea in one gulp. The fatigue caused by casting the spell disappeared like the dirt on the leaves washed away by the rain in early summer. Some are back, but I suggest you meet this one after you get all 3 rings. The Supreme Mage pointed to the little snake that was crawling lazily on the table. Surprisingly, both Salomon and the Supreme Sorcerer could see the expression on the little snake's face. It's a bit strange to say, but it is. Now the snake's expression is probably something like whatever you want, don't bother me or something. It barely raised its eyelids, looked at Salomon, then at the Supreme Mage, and then opened its mouth wide, trying to swallow an orange on the table. It looks pretty good. The Venerable said with a relaxed expression, I don't know when this goddess of wisdom came to you, but I don't think it's too bad. After all, it's the first time I've seen a snake eating fruit. Reality, not a game. But I've never been a guest of the gods. What should I bring? Olive oil, figs, or a cardigan? This is the 21st century, Salomon. The Supreme Master said with disgust, don't be so old-fashioned, a bottle of wine, or skincare products are good gifts for visiting guests. Salomon left the meditation room of the Supreme Mage holding the little snake that had just stuffed the orange into his mouth. From a distance, he looked like he was holding a ball connected to a rope. End of this chapter. Chapter 9 The Price and the Third Ring. The Supreme Master has always been selfless to Salomon, although the Venerable is the same to other apprentices, but the Supreme Master does not mind showing Salomon the darkest place in Kamar-Taj. Like its shadow in the sun, Kamar-Taj is not a particularly just organization. You see now, the price of magic. The Venerable led Salomon into a courtyard, where stood many ascetic monks in red robes and white ash on their bodies. Although they were deformed, the pain and itching did not cause any changes in the expression of the ascetic monks. They still looked calm and muttered. They believe in magic, so they are willing to bear the price caused by magic for Kamar-Taj. To be precise, they are paying the price for me. But, how do you pay your bill? I think it's a good idea to use spellcasting materials, teacher. Salomon suppressed his nausea and looked at the pustules and wounds. He tried to slow down his breathing to avoid inhaling the rotten smell of the wounds. He said, you also know that the knowledge that the stigmata brought to me is very special, but I think I can still pay my bills, and I don't just grow some weird things on my body. During World War II, there was a mage called Monner. He is still alive, and you may see him later. Every time he saved a girl under Na Kui, he drowned a rabbit on the way home. The Venerable put away the folding fan and knocked on Salomon's head. The cost of using magic is not all physical distortion, but other things, such as emotions, such as true love, such as interests. No one knows what to pay for. What is paid on one's own bills cannot be offset by spellcasting materials. I have paid my price, and you will pay yours in the future. According to what His Holiness said, when he embarked on this road, he paid the bills of life. Before Salomon knew it, he had already paid something to come to Kamar-Taj. Maybe just His Holiness is not sure about other beings or anything else. As for the last ring, the Supreme Master urged Salomon to get it as soon as possible, and the Supreme Master also provided a map and a book. Many years later, a new tomb was dug near an old sunken tomb. The two tombs share the same tombstone. There is such a line of inscription engraved on it, a piece of black land, a red letter A. The little mage, when I was flipping through this book, I came across this passage at the end. The author of this book is Nathaniel Hawthorne, the greatest romantic novelist in the United States in the 19th century. And the familiar black land in this, the scarlet letter, refers to Hawthorne's hometown, Salem. This land was called New England by the Puritans. The passengers of the Albert landed in Salem, first settled in Salem town, and then slowly built the city of Boston. Since then, Salem has welcomed a steady stream of Puritans, including Hawthorne's ancestors. There was also a case of religious persecution here, that is, the famous Salem witch case. The Puritans of that era had unimaginable fanaticism, and the presiding judge of this trial was Nathaniel Hawthorne. ancestor of John Hawthorne. But now, the local government of Salem has developed the witch into a selling point instead, vigorously promoting tourism, and even a witch cemetery. The whole town has a strong atmosphere of mysticism, and on Halloween, there will be a gathering of strange witches and devils, big and small. There is even a witch museum in Salem. This museum is very small. Salomon sits in the center of the museum, and the surrounding walls are lit up one by one, showing the scenes of the witch trials in those years. For ordinary people, the Salem witch case is a sad religious joke, but for Salomon, it smells something indescribable, like the stench of alien magic. Maybe the Salem witch. There may be some doubts about the case. This magical power is still attached to this land, but it has become weaker and weaker as time goes by. Perhaps the two little witches who triggered the trial were not ordinary people, but the innocent people involved behind them are enough to make people taste the disgusting fanaticism of those Puritans. The clothes of Salomon and Master Wang did not attract attention. As I said before, the mystical atmosphere here is very strong. The descendants of the fanatical Puritans no longer stick to their beliefs. There are many tourists who come here every day to look for witches. It is normal for a few people to dress up like wizards. Is not surprising. So where is the ring that His Holiness said? Master Xiao Wang looked around, staring at everyone's ring desperately, trying to find something unusual. Oh, is it still moving? What still moves? Of course it's a map. Salomon pointed to the map he opened, on which there was a small red dot marking the location of the ring. He said, "We are going to say hello to the descendants of those Puritans." Which stubborn lunatics are you talking about? Master Xiao Wang clenched his fists. Remember His Holiness teaching, you can't let magic show in front of ordinary people, so fists are more useful. My lord, you can't even use a ring of Ragator now. If the Lord didn't create so many spells that can use your own magic power, you wouldn't even be called a spellcaster. Salomon raised his head, trying to compare the location on the map with the real building, and other people have guns, don't forget, this is America. The ring of Ragator mentioned by Salomon is one of Kamataj's common spells. It is manifested as a magic shield on each hand, one is orange and the other is red. This is the difference in the output of magic power. There is not much difference in the structure of the spell, but it is also the first magic with a spell structure learned by the mage of Kamataj after acquiring the magic power. Okay, what shall we do now? Master Wang's chubby cheeks were full of impatience, and the fat on his cheeks trembled from time to time. Use magic, my dear king, said the young mage. Wait for our target to appear. Do you have any money? The reason why the Supreme Master asked Wang to follow Salomon was not only because Master Wang had not signed a contract with Vizandi at present, but because Wang was one of the rare and less rigid apprentices in Kamataj. When other mages saw wild mages, they often shouted and shouted, but their strength did not keep up with their aura. Years of protection gave them a lot of arrogance, which made it difficult for them to look down on ordinary people. Those difficult goals were almost solved by the Supreme Mage himself, leaving some low-level miscellaneous soldiers to other mages of Kamataj. To put it simply, the Supreme Mage is a legendary mage, and except for a small number of Kamataj's mainstays, other mages may not have exceeded the 10th level. The life of any mage other than a mage. The Supreme Mage has also noticed this problem. The development of human beings in the past 100 years has been much greater than that in the past few thousand years. If Kamataj cannot face up to the power of ordinary people, it is very likely that he will suffer a big loss in the future. And Master Wang is one of the talents that the Supreme Master cultivated, and broadening his horizons is what he and Salomon need to do. End of this chapter. Chapter 10 Tricks. Salomon's method was simple and rough, and did not show much ingenuity, and their enemies were not as difficult to deal with as the guardians of the British Museum. Of course, this refers to the magical level. Having said that, the opponent this time is not an easy character to deal with. The descendants of the Puritans who participated in the Salem witch trials and the families of the Puritan civil servants who hanged innocent women still control Salem's politics and economy for generations. This is the hereditary system of capitalism. And Ricky White is a descendant of one of the civil servants' families, and he is a senator from Salem. Salomon and Master Wang found a coffee shop across the street from the city hall, where they sat and waited for the politician to appear. It tastes like hot mud. Salomon held a cup of coffee with too much milk and sugar in his hand. He has always hated coffee, no matter how much milk and sugar is added, he always feels sour in his mouth. He squinted at little Master Wang who was sitting opposite the small white round table. Senior brother Wang, is this the first tuna sandwich you have eaten? We are here to monitor, not to eat. My father didn't have time to confiscate the living expenses just issued yesterday. Master Wang patted his chubby belly, and he said nonchalantly, of course I must seize the opportunity to eat something delicious. Don't you like eating Karmitage? Canteen? Which of us didn't go to the Hong Kong temple to eat? Salomon rolled his eyes. Master Xiao Wang is still optimistic about his body shape. He firmly believes that only by eating more food and gaining weight can he have the strength to survive the arduous training of Karmitage, at least he can have some buffer when he is punched in the stomach. It is a good thing to have a broad mind and a fat body, but it is an outlier in the Karmitage headquarters, which pays attention to penance. The people there are either thin or strong, and you are a fat man with a 99.1 ABS. If you don't beat you, who will you beat? How long are we going to wait here? Master Xiao Wang hiccuped in satisfaction. Today is the happiest day for him to eat. After leaving the supervision of Master Hamel, he devoured like a wild dog without a rein, and he naturally didn't have any impatience when he was satisfied. The reason why he asked this sentence, just wondering if he still has time to eat a few more. I don't know. Salomon shook his head. But Salomon is very patient, a politician will not stay here forever, he always has to go out to socialize, entertain, and take care of his own business. This is a product of the dictatorship with capitalist characteristics, and it will always wait for him. If you send me to Washington, I will promise to make reforms, and I will guarantee with my life that my heart will not change. Ricky White is making a speech on the noisy TV screen in the cafe. As can be seen from the background, his seat was just before Salem City Hall. I will always be Ricky White, son of Salem, and I will always fight for what we are, to the fullest. It may be because the TV in the coffee shop has been in disrepair for a long time, not only the picture is always a little bit noisy, but the sound is also a little bit noisy. Ricky White's campaign manifesto faded into obscurity. Salomon leaned his body on the soft chair with a cushion and a soft back, watching the withered yellow leaves roll across the street outside the window. He closed his eyes slightly, and slowly, the noise disappeared, as did the sound of passing vehicles. He could hear the dripping of the faucet in the cafe's kitchen, the resonance of the drops hitting the stainless steel sink, and the electrical noise of a poor connection in a fluorescent tube. Even further away, the clatter of radio knobs, the mucus of lips parting between lovers, and the distant chirping of birds. Hey, Salomon, wake up! A sudden shaking interrupted Salomon's meditation. They're out. Salomon opened his eyes and yawned. This is the power of a saint that His Holiness said. He will gradually have stronger physical qualities than ordinary people, such as better hearing and eyesight. These abilities will gradually manifest as he grows older. But he is not the Superman in the comics. According to His Holiness, his body has been strengthened by magic power, and no matter what, he will not break away from the category of human beings, although this is already an exaggeration for ordinary people. During the short break, he just meditated and did not cast the astral projection that he has always disliked. This spell was researched by His Holiness according to the XZ Tantric classics, and this spell is usually used by Karmitage to study all-night used when. Salomon sneered at this, just sleep well, what to do with so many troublesome things. Of course, Karmitage's classics on this aspect are not limited to astral body projection. If a mage is interested in this aspect, he can continue to study the Yang Shen method of Zhang Bajuan, Xiang real person collected by His Holiness. It's just that no one has learned it. The method of double cultivation of life and soul sounds good, but it takes too long, and it has always been inconsistent with the purpose of Karmitage. Salomon followed Master Xiao Wang's line of sight and looked out. Just outside the glass window, Ricky White with short blonde hair came out from the gate of the city hall with his secretary Gloria on his arm, and was about to get in a car. Black car. Stop. Don't disturb my spell casting. Salomon withdrew his hand and began to whisper the spell. The town of Salem is not big, and even the streets are not too spacious. Most of the buildings here have grey-black walls, which look very cold. It seems that the residents here prefer a peaceful life, and are not too interested in what develops into a big town or something. Therefore, the coffee shop where Salomon was located was not far from Ricky White, and the spell he cast was enough to reach the target. Master Xiao Wang saw Salomon pointing his fingers, and Ricky White even fell to the ground with his secretary Gloria in a red plush trim coat. When Master Xiao Wang took a closer look, he was shocked. You, how did you take off his pants? He widened his eyes and looked at Salomon with disbelief. What kind of magic is this? Pants removal. Salomon replied. This magic is a prank used by many apprentice mages in Golarion, but many wizards who have been famous for many years still use this spell as one of their common spells. Because except for warriors wearing plate armor, no matter whether you use a belt or suspenders, you can't stop the pants from falling to your ankles. As long as you don't want to fight with your bare butt, otherwise even legendary warriors can't escape this magic. Who wouldn't trip over dropped pants? Ricky White stood up in a panic, and his bodyguards in black suits also blocked the sight of others in time. After all, it is not good news for a senator to take off his pants in the street. Okay, we can start now. Salomon stood up and continued to chant the spell while walking towards the target. The originally majestic bodyguards in black bowed down in unison, because their trousers fell to the ground one by one, which attracted the crowds of tourists. Salomon took Master Wang quickly squeezed past. The bodyguards in black hurriedly raised their trousers while blocking the reporter. They tried to stop the paparazzi from filming, but with little success, as their trouser legs were already trampled by astute reporters, preventing them from taking a step. Salomon squeezed back and forth among the crowd, chanting incantations incessantly, and following his magic, the movements and reactions of the crowd around him became sluggish. He raised one hand above his head, and golden dust filled everyone's head. "Close your eyes," he whispered to Master Xiao Wang, followed by a bright light comparable to a flash bomb. The onlookers couldn't help closing their eyes, and some shed tears because of excessive eyeball stimulation. "Come on, it's the ring with the pink stone." End of this chapter. Chapter 11 The Ghost of the White Family, Seeking Investment. "Have you got it?" Salomon looked up and asked. At this time, he was hiding in a remote alley in Ceylon town with the panting little Mage Wang. Regardless of the stench of garbage and vomit in the alley, he eagerly asked Mage Wang. This is my first time stealing something." Master Xiao Wang kept patting his chest, as if he wanted to calm down the heart that was almost jumping out of his throat. This behavior was still too exciting for him. But when he took a deep breath, he was choked by the stench in the alley and retched. "In fact, our behavior is more inclined to robbery." Salomon blinked innocently, and he reached out and patted Master Xiao Wang on the back. "I hope no camera will take pictures of you, otherwise maybe the next time you go out there will be a few policemen in front of you. In view of the race issue, they may shoot with a little warning, so I suggest that we prepare protective spells before going out next time." "What? Me? Don't worry, I have been all covered their faces." "Oh, I regret choosing this place, it stinks." Near them, the crowd, recovering from the blinding light, continued to yell, and Ricky White started yelling. Even though his eyes could not see at that time, the touch of the ring being taken from his finger was still very obvious. He felt a chubby hand grabbed his wrist without any explanation, and spread his palm forcibly, and then his ring disappeared. It was a White family heirloom, and when he wore that ring, he never suffered any misfortune, neither sharpening his pencils as a child nor shaving his beard as an adult. Scratches. And now, Ricky White has bruises on his wrist, which may be the worst injury he has ever suffered in his life. A senator taking off his pants in public and a senator being robbed on the street have different weights. The former can be seen as a joke, and the scandals of politicians are loved by everyone, while the latter is a political figure. Save question. As a result, the situation quickly escalated. The Salem police immediately controlled everyone present, including the reporters who did not know the truth and were still complaining about the freedom of the press. The police forcefully pushed these idiots who could not see the situation to the ground. Salomon and Master Wang escaped unharmed because they left earlier. But if they are still wandering in Salem, it will be a matter of time before they are found. "Here." Master Xiao Wang finally recovered his breath. He opened his palms and said in a low voice, "It's here. This is a platinum ring with a huge pink gemstone. The base of the gemstone is a grid pattern. There are two smaller pink round gemstones at the front and rear ends of the oval pink gemstone. There are a total of 4 smaller pink gemstones inlaid between the bases of the shaped gemstones. These gemstones have a deep pink color." Salomon used his shallow gem identification knowledge to identify these should be pink diamonds. The weight of the gemstones on this ring is far beyond the category of expensive. Even the gemstones on the pink diamond flower brooch of the Queen Mother of England are not as big as the gemstones on this ring. "Okay, I think we can leave, put it in my pocket." Salomon nodded. Although he knew how to use the magic of the portal, it was a bit funny to say, but it was not when they came use the portal instead of the coach. This is also a helpless move, because before obtaining a large amount of magic power of Weiss Handy, he can't use many spells of Weiss Handy's series. Master Xiao Wang poked his head out of the alley, ready to take Salomon out of this ghostly place. He really couldn't stand breathing through his mouth anymore. He felt that if he stayed any longer, all the sandwiches he had eaten before would be gone. Spit it all out. When he waved back to signal Salomon to follow, he got no response. He felt a cold breath clinging to his back, goosebumps spread on his skin, and he couldn't help shivering. This feeling is very familiar. He had encountered it once when he and Salomon got the ring in the British Museum. I knew it wouldn't be that easy, he murmured. Immediately afterwards, he heard a loud noise behind him, and was thrown forward to the ground by an irresistible force. When he hurriedly got up from the street and picked off the fallen leaves sticking to his face, he saw that the originally narrow alley had widened a lot at this time, and the stone bricks at the entrance seemed to be smashed by something average. And this situation is still going on. Salomon is hiding in the alley with his head in his arms, and the crushed stone bricks hit his body hard from the side, from the height, everywhere, and he unable to stop. He could only keep dodging, because there was something formless in the air that was venting its anger, trying to smash everything around it. Of course, Salomon is also included. The passers-by screamed in alarm, and the police also devoted part of their energy to come here. Master Xiao Wang ignored the eyes of others and the police who were facing an enemy, and shouted eagerly, "Come out quickly! Salomon, come out quickly, come out!" No. Salomon glanced at his surroundings. The skeleton-like ghost wearing old-fashioned clothes and wrapped in pink magic was hitting him with his body. He could only ignore the sharp broken bricks on the ground and hit him. "Get out, dodge this attack! Infidels! Thieves! Warlocks!" The rotting faces of these ghosts showed no expression at all, and they shouted in a voice inaudible to ordinary people, "Give back what you stole from our family!" Flower Q. Salomon raised his middle finger in his busy schedule, and fought back fiercely at the ghost. Of course, it was only spiritual. And he didn't have time to chant the spell at all. Those ghosts were not easy to mess with. Taking advantage of Salomon's distraction, they slapped a whole brick on his back hard. Against the falling bricks and stones, Master Xiao Wang rushed in. He pinched Salomon lying on the ground under his armpit and ran out of the alley. "Are they still there?" he asked Salomon as he ran with sore legs. If you let me down, I can kill them." Salomon's response was painful, and every time he said a word, his stomach would be strangled hard. This made it impossible for him to breathe normally. "Easy, light, let me down." "No. Can't be here." Master Xiao Wang said intermittently, "We can't expose the magic." I thought, we, Kamatage, not, the Ministry of Magic." However, these ghosts are not ordinary ghosts. They are different from the deformed, twisted and selfless ghosts in the British Museum. These ghosts live in the ring. Members of the White family, their power is much stronger than ordinary ghosts. On the way to chase Master Xiao Wang and Salomon, they not only smashed the glass of many shops along the street, shattered the asphalt road, and even overturned several cars to the ground, as if there was an invisible monster on the street running wildly. There are ping-pong-pong sounds everywhere. But in any case, the weakness of ghosts will never change, even for the most powerful ghosts. Fire and lightning are always the weaknesses of spirit creatures, and physical attacks caused by magic can also damage their bodies. This is it. Master Xiao Wang ran to a sparsely populated place, which was the gap between two abandoned buildings. The reason why he came to such a place was entirely at Salomon's own request. Salomon was in great pain and repeated it intermittently many times before he understood, and Master Wang didn't care about the fact that magic could not be exposed, so he could only choose the most remote place as possible. When he arrived at the destination, he simply threw Salomon down and leaned against the wall to gasp for air. He felt that his lungs were about to burn, and the tinnitus and vomiting almost made him unable to breathe. Pa Salomon was slammed to the ground. The previous operation of Master Xiao Wang almost shook his brain. But he didn't have time to complain, he just stood up in a hurry, shook a few times, ignored the pain in his back and abdomen, and didn't even have time to pat the dust off his body, so he concentrated and began to chant the spell. For the first time, Salomon felt that Karmatage's melee lessons were useful, because it allowed him to get used to the pain, not just interrupting the spell due to injury. Casting spells in battle is something every mage of Karmatage can do. There is a magic that Salomon is particularly fond of. This magic releases the most primitive magic energy, and due to the particularity of the spell, unless the target uses magic to resist, otherwise this magic with tracking properties will definitely hit the target. This spell would be the spell of choice if a wizard faced an enemy of a non-spellcaster class and didn't know the target's weaknesses. That's right, that's Magic Missile. End of this chapter. Chapter 12 Weishan Emperor appears. 3 missiles dragging blue energy tail flames hit the newly exposed ghosts, knocking them back a few inches, but this kind of attack not only failed to completely lose their shape, but ignited their anger. They shattered glass and yanked yellow, crumbling leaves from the tops of trees with screams inaudible. How much magic a person can use in a day is fixed, because everyone's mental power is limited, and casting spells requires enough mental power to support it. Just like consuming physical strength, the exhausted spirit also needs enough rest to recover. Today's Salomon is very close to this limit. But mages always have a solution. After seeing that the magic missiles couldn't do much, he immediately pulled Wang, who was panting against the wall, and turned around and ran away. I don't think anyone can accuse Salomon of fleeing without a fight. Isn't it common to run away if you can't fight? But unfortunately, these ghosts don't want to let Salomon out of their sight. The heirloom of the White family is still in Salomon's pocket. I can run by myself. Panting Wang, although he couldn't see, he still tried his best to stretch his tired legs and run forward. He had read in the book what happened to people possessed by ghosts, and the ghosts chasing them were obviously very powerful evil spirits. He wanted to know now why His Holiness asked Salomon to recover these ghost things. This was obviously not something they could deal with, and he didn't expect to have the same luck as last time. Now he misses the soft chair in the coffee shop, allowing him to sit comfortably on it and eat some delicious snacks. Instead of being covered in mud, his legs are weak and his breathing is difficult. Now the two are running away in a wasteland in the suburbs. None of them thought that they would be so miserable one day. To say that they ran away with their heads in their hands is already flattering them. Anyone who sees their dusty mess will think that they are running for their lives. While running, Salomon took out a piece of parchment from his waist pocket and tore it open. The silver magic particles adhered to his body and disappeared soon after. He took out another piece of parchment, and cast the same spell on the king. After doing these things, he immediately slowed down, walked forward a few steps, turned back, and put his hands together. Go! Seeing that Salomon had stopped, Master Xiao Wang also stopped. His face was covered with anxiety, and now he just wanted to find a public phone to call Karmatage for help. Do you want to? What are you going to do? Fight! Senior brother Wang, now they can no longer possess themselves, we can do a big fight. Salomon's palms burst into orange-red sparks, dancing and transforming between. What? Are you crazy? Master Xiao Wang's eyes widened. Your Majesty's decree, only we will know about this operation, and we cannot ask for assistance. Salomon said. The 3 rings can control the magic power of Weiss Handy, and he must not let other people in Karmatage know about this. The function of the rings can be said to be a blasphemy against Weiss Handy. If some diehards in Karmatage knew about this, the Supreme Master's plan to get rid of Vizandy's worship would come to naught. Salomon absolutely supports the plan of the Supreme Mage. The suzerain is not a god, and the Magister and the suzerain are just a transactional relationship. The pride of the mage, he can't bear to have a god riding on his head all the time. If the Venerable has not explained to him, his own magic power cannot be compared with the endless magic power of Weiss Handy. He is more willing to use his own vitality to refine magic power. He squinted his eyes to look at the ghosts rushing towards them madly, and continued to wave his fingers. The magic beam formed by Vizandy's magic power became more and more dense in his hand, and the arc of sparking magic power formed between Salomon's palms. This is his most powerful magic flame-shaping spell so far. I don't know whether these ghosts are strengthened by magic or because they are too numerous. From Salomon's perspective, pink light is shining around these ghosts. That should be the power that keeps them alive, but their feet are covered with black mist. The thief, return. Seeing that Salomon stopped, they also issued an ultimatum, return, you, leave. When they gathered together, the black mist under their feet became more and more condensed, and the temperature dropped accordingly. On the street where there had just been a light rain, the accumulated water condensed into white thin ice. Off. Salomon threw out the chain of magic power, and the scorching positive energy magic power kept jumping among the ghosts, making a screeching sound like a hot soldering iron, and countless ghosts immediately they stopped and howled miserably. Death! They rushed over, but what greeted them was a machete materialized by magic power. Although Salomon was not very proficient in Bajiquan, he still knew how to use a knife. He slammed the machete made of sparks at a ghost, and a crack was cut in the body made of negative energy, but other ghosts followed and knocked him over a few somersaults. Just when those ghosts were about to pounce, a palm slammed one of the ghosts to the ground. Master Xiao Wang was finally able to see the face of the ghost clearly after using the secret method. When he saw that Salomon was about to suffer, he couldn't sit still anymore, so he blessed the protection spell that the venerable master sorted out from other magic books. A tiger pounce rescued Salomon. What shall we do now? Master Xiao Wang asked eagerly after dragging Salomon out. His face was about to wrinkle into a ball. Since His Holiness did not want others to know about their actions, it was up to them to settle this matter. Salomon didn't know what to do for a moment. These ghosts were already the most powerful enemies he had encountered so far. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath of the cold air, and when he opened his eyes again, he had already made up his mind. Help me resist for a while, and I can deal with them. Salomon said, and put his hand into his pocket. When he touched the other two rings, the originally cold rings became warm. Master Xiao Wang nodded seriously. Now the ghosts can no longer possess him. The magic he has learned is enough to block those ghosts for a while. Salomon took his hand out of his pocket, and he opened his palm, and the orange and pink gemstones on the other two rings gave off a light that made it difficult to divert attention. He took another deep breath and quickly put the other two rings on the middle finger and ring finger of his right hand. In an instant, the warm metal became hot, sticking to his fingers like red-hot metal, and Salomon couldn't help screaming. Salomon! Master Xiao Wang hurriedly turned his head. He saw Salomon kneeling on the ground, surrounded by a flame of magic power. The corners of his robe were already burnt yellow. And his long black curly hair was also burnt and twisted. The terrifying high temperature expanded the air, blow Master Xiao Wang a few steps back. The ghosts were even more chaotic. The huge amount of magic power easily crushed their bodies, and the skeletons made of spirit bodies disintegrated in the air and turned into the purest magic power. Stay away from me! Salomon yelled, but no one could hear his voice clearly, because the high temperature had already made his throat and tongue extremely dry, and the hot air scalded his lungs. After saying a word, he couldn't help retching, spitting out some thick crimson liquid, but soon his throat would become extremely dry again, like rubbing sandpaper. Salomon could only utter vague words that no one can understand. At this time, the skin on his hands was already blistered, the blood that flowed out instantly dried up, and the sweat dripping from his forehead was also evaporated in an instant. His lips were tight, dry, and peeling. Immediately afterwards, the high temperature further intensified, and Salomon wailed again. Part of his skin began to be blackened and carbonized, and the asphalt ground under his feet had even melted and softened. Severe dehydration and high temperature caused Salomon's consciousness to fall into chaos. Master Wang saw that his skin had become extremely burnt yellow, layer after layer of skin became dry and fragile, and then fell off, revealing the blood flow below. Bloodless, bright red muscle tissue. But even so, Salomon raised his head subconsciously. Although he could no longer see anything clearly, he knew that in the void where ordinary people could not see, where the magic power gathered, three faces appeared. A tiger, a male and a female. Hagos, Agamotto, and Ashutu. F***q, Vizandi. Salomon raised his hand. He felt he could hear the friction of dry bones and muscles, but he couldn't say what he wanted to say, because his vocal cords had already covered with dried blood, his tongue was stuck to his jaw with blood, and he couldn't speak a word at all. With his last strength, Salomon unbuttoned the cloth of the holy relic. End of this chapter. Chapter 13 The Tree of Life, Seeking Investment. Salomon had a dream in which he dreamed of a huge tree growing in a calm ocean with two giant snakes twined around it. He saw a huge ring made of crystal inlaid at the bottom of the tree trunk in front of him, with four-color streamers of orange, olive, reddish-brown and black on it. Not only that, when his sight gradually rose, the rings on both sides of the trunk also lit up with various colors, but it seemed that as the height climbed, his sight became more and more blurred. He could barely see the ring at the highest point, which was cast from diamond, with wings wrapped around it, shining with white light. He lowered his head again and saw the reflection of the giant tree buried deep in the mist. Salomon couldn't see the reflection clearly, he could only vaguely see that the image of the rings of the giant tree in the reflection was quite different. Looking carefully, those rings together with the branches constituted 5 parts, which were different from the giant tree's rings. The upper ring corresponds to the pentagram formed by the branches. He heard a whisper in his ear, a voice that would speak to him of the keys of the kingdom of spirits. But before Salomon listened carefully, he found himself far away from the ocean. Are you awake? But now you still need to rest. The peaceful voice reached Salomon's ears, and only then did he realize that he had woken up from his dream. When Salomon barely opened his eyes tiredly, he saw the venerable sitting beside him. The flames made of mana were gone, and his lips were no longer chapped. He only remembered that he put on all the rings and erupted with amazing magic power, but he had no memory of what happened after that. He turned his eyes and found that he was in the main part of Karmatage, the bedroom that belonged to him. After all, Karmatage is the only dead otaku, and the bedroom of an otaku is always a bit different, and there is no game console in other rooms. He just wanted to raise his hand, but found that he didn't have the strength to do it at all. He wanted to speak, but he couldn't. You were too reckless this time, but the result was good. In the end, you still tamed the ring of Emperor Y Sand. Don't worry, the king is fine, and he didn't tell the story. Everyone else thought you were killed by the Black Wizard. Attacked. Seeing that Salomon had something to say, the Venerable tapped his head lightly with a folding fan. I wanted to wait for your soul to become stronger before letting you wear the ring, but I didn't expect you to do it first. But it's good, now you can practice the magic of Emperor Weishan. Venerable say, okay, I also fed that snake for you, so you can rest assured that you can rest for a while. Salomon blinked quickly and struggled to say something, but the Ancient One ignored him, but fixed the quilt with magic, making sure that only his head was exposed from the quilt. Seeing this, Salomon had no choice but to give up struggling, and closed his eyes resignedly. Anyway, the quilt is quite warm, forget it, let it be like this, the seal of the quilt monster is too strong, let's sleep for a while. Not long after the Supreme Mage left Salomon's bedroom, another person sneakily opened the carved wooden door of the bedroom and walked in lightly, like a dancing bear. When he stepped on the creaking wooden floor, his weight gave away his identity. Hey, junior brother Salomon, you scared me to death. You have been sleeping for several days without even drinking any water. A chubby figure appeared in front of Salomon's eyes, bringing Salomon back from pulled out from deep sleep. He said, I just saw His Holiness going out, so I knew you were fine. Tell me, what's going on, could it be that His Holiness will not let me talk about this? Salomon opened his eyes and looked at Master Xiao Wang with joy in his eyes. He blinked twice quickly, but Master Xiao Wang nodded, and he patted his chest, I understand what you mean, don't worry, I won't say anything. What do you understand? I don't mean that. Salomon blinked twice again, and made a muffled grunt. Let me go. Master Xiao Wang moved closer, and he ignored Salomon, but talked on his own. And through Master Xiao Wang's broken thoughts, Salomon finally clarified what happened after he put on the ring. When the magic storm tore the ghost into pieces, and blew Mage Xiao Wang over a few somersaults along the way, the Trinity Vizandi appeared in front of Salomon. They are high above, 3 powerful magic entities surround Salomon, and a huge amount of magic power wraps him layer by layer like a surging tide. Immediately afterwards, the orange-red flames made of magic power spread outward like the anger of Emperor Weishan. The asphalt pavement softened and bubbled, and the trees on the side of the road were instantly ignited. The expanding hot air set off a gust of wind, engulfing the dust and burning ashes. The huge energy smashed the stone walls of the abandoned buildings, and everything around them melted into flames. Unknown sticky. Master Xiao Wang has already got down on his stomach. As a member of Kamatage, how could he fail to recognize the Trinity Emperor Weishan? Damn it, what kind of mission did His Holiness give Salomon, what the hell are those rings, why is it related to Weiss Handy, it seems that those rings must have blasphemed Emperor Weishan. Master Wang kept cursing in his heart. At that time, he already thought that Salomon was doomed. In such a high temperature, if he did not cast protective magic, the only end would be to be burned by the flames. Master Xiao Wang felt that he could only see Salomon's scorched black hair and brittle bones in the end. He had always liked Salomon, and unlike the other kids in Karmatage, Salomon was never noisy. But now Salomon is dead, he doesn't care about being sad, he just wants to find a safe place to hide. Kamatage's planetary defense system must be able to detect the magic fluctuations here, he can only wait for his fellow disciples to finish, and he has also figured out how to shoulder the responsibility of this disaster. But when the holy shroud on Salomon's body was torn off, the uncontrollable magical power subsided suddenly. It was difficult for Mage Wang to describe the scene he saw at that time. He saw Salomon's body emitting extremely dazzling light in the flames. When Master Xiao Wang saw the light, he felt that he saw countless profound and complicated knowledge. It seems that the 3-in-1 Weiss Handy began to communicate with each other. Master Xiao Wang could not understand what they said at all, and could only vaguely distinguish a few words, which are the 2 commonly used words in mysticism, angel and demon. When he heard other words, it felt like a flood of information was being stuffed into his brain unfiltered, making him dizzy. In the end, I didn't remember anything, just 2 words. Afterwards, Master Xiao Wang said with lingering fear, be sure to tell me before you do such a terrible thing next time. Don't look at me like that, I definitely run first. His soul is strong enough. Compared with the other 2 magical entities whose gender and shape are not fixed, Agamotto, who served as the first-generation supreme mage, has a much better attitude towards humans. When Salomon put on the ring, the former supreme mage took the initiative to excuse Salomon, and he is the disciple of the current supreme mage, you know what that means. But he's a thief. Ha goes with the head of a tiger roared, if it wasn't for Guyi, he wouldn't have found the ring. Agamotto looked at his mother, Ashutu, the source of white magic, but Ashutu said nothing. So Agamotto said, our ring must be used by someone, isn't it? Then why didn't he sign the contract? You know our contractual restrictions, and if he takes off the ring, he loses our magic power. Maybe it's a good thing, we can. Suddenly, the huge magical power disappeared, and the phantom of Emperor Weishan disappeared. Master Xiao Wang raised his head tremblingly. If it wasn't for the residual hot air around the still burning buildings and the melted scorched road, he would have thought that what he experienced just now was an illusion. He wiped away his tears and sweat, wore a protective spell, and stepped on the softened ground towards Salomon at the center of the disaster. He only wanted to bring Salomon back. But when he got closer, he saw that Salomon's withered and charred chest was still heaving slightly. Ecstasy overwhelmed him at once. As long as he is not dead, the Supreme Mage can definitely save him, if not, then there is the Eye of Agamotto, that is a magic weapon that can reverse time. Then the Venerable opened a portal to bring us back. No one else saw you during the whole process. Master Xiao Wang whispered, the Venerable repaired your body with magic. Don't worry, tell me, I promise not to say anything. Salomon blinked his eyes and tried his best to express himself. He managed to utter a few vague words. But Master Xiao Wang didn't understand at all. Go out. Why do you keep blinking? He asked. Street boy, I haven't been to the bathroom for days, let me out, you bastard. End of this chapter. Chapter 14 Causes Investigation, Seeking Investment. The Supreme Master did not use the Eye of Agamotto to go back in time to save Salomon's life. This is something that many people do not allow. There are many stubborn guys in Kamatage who think that using the Eye of Agamotto is at disrupted normal times. However, what they said did have some truth, and the Supreme Master also believed that if the time on Salomon was traced back, the contract between him and Emperor Wysandi might disappear. So His Holiness used the white magic from Visandi's book to help him heal himself. This kind of magic consumes Salomon's own vitality, so Salomon feels weak when he wakes up. This kind of sequelae is not unbearable. It is beyond the reach of modern medicine to make a severely burned person look like a new life. It takes a very long and painful treatment just to restore the skin, and Salomon, who received magic treatment, did not feel any discomfort. You know, when the Supreme Mage brought Salomon back, every piece of skin on his body had been carbonized, and the flesh and blood under the skin were almost ripe. It is possible to die. It's just that this kind of treatment must be based on Salomon's own strong vitality. Fortunately, Salomon's body has been strengthened with positive energy, and he only needs a few days of rest to recover. The long curly hair has grown back now, but it is a little shorter. Salomon was very satisfied with this. He really couldn't stand that his hair was as long as a fingernail, which was worse than killing him. When Salomon was able to get up and eat, he also took a look at the charred black shells that he took off after receiving treatment. In fact, when His Holiness treated him, it was like peeling chestnuts, removing him from these black shells. Stripped from the shell. Moreover, his new skin was too delicate, not only lost the calluses left by his previous martial arts training, but also the skin on his face became white and tender again, which made him encounter those female mages in Kamatage. Assault, everyone had to pinch his face twice as they passed by. Hey! Salomon sat in his room, dipped his quill in ink, and drew a scroll on the parchment. Salomon believes that a large part of the reason for the failure of this operation is that he did not bring all the required scrolls. If it weren't for the fact that there were 2 scrolls of protection from good and evil around him at that time, the fate of him and Mage Xiao Wang would have been even more miserable. People who are possessed by evil spirits have almost no good fate. There is no chance of waiting for the Supreme Mage to be rescued. According to the instructions of the Supreme Master, he still needs to rest for many days before he can perform normal activities. Master Zhang, who teaches Bajiquan, does not want to see Salomon's soft hands and feet, so there is no need to take the body protection course. To this day, Master Zhang still believes that Salomon was attacked by a black wizard because he did not learn the art of self-defense well. So Salomon became a negative teaching material in the body protection class. The excuse of being attacked by a black wizard almost deceived everyone, except for the Venerable Master and Master Xiao Wang. No one knew the truth. As for the dark wizard, if the Venerable has shot, he must be dead, and the soul can't even go to hell. Salomon put down the quill, raised his hand, and looked carefully at the 3 rings on his right finger. The sapphire ring on the index finger, the orange sapphire ring on the middle finger, and the pink diamond ring on the ring finger. These rings are clean on the surface without leaving any traces of being burned. The gemstones emit charming brilliance under the sunlight. Although these rings look very expensive, they are no different from ordinary rings. They have nothing to do with magic items and have no magical aura. No one would have imagined that these rings could actually control the magic power of Emperor Weishan. He carefully tried to take off the rings, but found that these rings not only automatically adapted to his fingers, but also lingered on his fingers. Salomon gradually increased his strength, but finally found that he could not move. The 3 rings were torn off. Salomon sighed. Well, now the rings are hanging on him like a drunk rascal. According to what he knew about magicians, such behavior meant that the contract had been established, and he could use Wei Shandi's magic power in an open and honest manner. No matter what considerations Wei Shandi has in mind, Salomon can only wait for Wei Shandi to make arrangements for him, but his contract is much looser than other people in Comitage, and the contract cancellation is extremely rare. It is convenient, so he also has the right to refuse, provided that he can take off the ring. And for him, the advantage of wearing the ring is not only that he can use the magic power of Wei Shandi in large quantities, but also that he has initially mastered the control of the stigmata. It's just that it's useless to think so much now. Salomon sighed again, picked up the ruler and protractor, and continued to draw the scrolls. For him, adding his own spell books and scrolls was what he should do now. What happened in the small town of Salem naturally caught the attention of certain agencies, and they arrived just in time to deal with this paranormal phenomenon. Since the scope of the disaster was not large or small, and it was located in the suburbs. This time the incident was not serious enough to report to the World Security Council. It's just that due to the protest of the senator in Salem town, SHIELD sent an experienced agent to deal with this matter. Mutant? Terrorist attack? Or an accident? Carlson, wearing a black suit, took the tablet from his colleague. Looking at the staff who were testing the scene, is there any other information found? Nothing. Sylvester shook his bald head. However, according to the Salem police report, Senator Ricky White of Salem town was robbed that day, and it is said that someone used it after a flash bomb. A ring was snatched from the senator's finger, a ring with a pink gemstone. But we can't be sure whether the robber has anything to do with the mutant. There is no ringing in the ears. It wasn't a shock bomb, maybe it was a homemade flash bomb. Where are the witnesses? Carlson sighed. He was ready to face an out-of-control mutant, and this time he came to the small town of Salem with light weapons and equipment. Since Melinda experienced the Bahrain Island incident, she has switched to clerical work. If Melinda is here, Carlson can feel at ease. Facing mutants, these weapons bring him far more security than not the security that Melinda gave him by his side. No, after the sudden bright light, Senator Ricky White found himself robbed. The only useful information we got from him was the bruise on his wrist. Sylvester pushed himself. We can use this to deduce the height and weight of the attacker. It's just that most of the people present were arrested by the police, and we couldn't find anyone who met the requirements. The real robber must have fled the scene. We are not here to find a robber for the senator, nor are we here to find beggars, gamblers, and drunks. Our purpose is to investigate supernatural events. The robbers are handed over to the local police for investigation. Yes. If the local police hadn't found the bomb wreckage, they wouldn't have found us, and no terrorist attack would have come to the suburbs specifically. It's just... Carlson stomped on the asphalt beneath his feet. In front of him, the asphalt on the asphalt road has completely melted. It can be seen that the high temperature spreads in a circular arc shape. The asphalt ground has different melting degrees according to the distance from the center of the circle. The asphalt closest to Carlson is only slightly raised, and the most central part of the ground, it can be seen that it has been melted into fluid. For an experienced agent, there is enough evidence in such a scene to investigate. Carlson didn't expect him to find any clues from the surveillance. Pointing to the ground in front of him, he said, "There is a footprint here, leading to the center. We can easily deduce the physical information of the owner of this footprint. After the trace inspection results come out, we can combine this information with the robbery." I have a hunch that the two are probably the same person. And his companion, the person in the high temperature center, is probably the mutant we are looking for. But the problem is, we did not see the footprints that come out. Maybe the owner of this footprint is also a mutant. You mean, he can fly? Ah chirp! Ah chirp! Master Xiao Wang and Salomon, who were eating in the Hong Kong temple, had no idea that Shield had already investigated them. End of this chapter. Chapter 15 Detective Phil Coulson. In fact, Coulson did not find much useful information on the scene. There is no way to compare the shoe prints left by Mage Wang on the asphalt, because those shoes are all produced by Comatage, and they are low-level magic items with certain protective capabilities. The only thing he can know is how high the temperature was at the time, but this can only make him raise the level of danger to this suspected mutant. The trace inspection also found some red fibers in the center of the high temperature, but Coulson is not 100% sure that this is related to this case. Coulson's admiration for Nick Fury has once again increased. Of course, what he admires most is Nick Fury, who lost an eye because of fighting against aliens. Coulson didn't know Nick was blinded by a cat. As expected of the director of SHIELD, he was able to predict the level of danger so preparedly without arriving at the scene, and then dispatched an agent of the right level to deal with it, but these ideas are useless, and it is impossible for Coulson to put these nasty sycophants or written on the report. But in the end there is some good news. According to the speculated figure comparison, the person who robbed the senator is the same person who left the shoe print. Now he has determined that there are two mutants, one can emit high temperature and high light, and the other may be manipulating the air or something similar, and the places affected by the disaster that day were not limited to the suburbs, and the traces of destruction extended from the city hall to the city hall outskirts. The agent didn't believe in coincidences. It was impossible for two strange mutants to get together that day. This was a gang crime. This made Coulson sigh again. Some mutants will do things that they would not dare to do after suddenly gaining power, such as rushing into the company and killing the boss who oppressed the employees all day long and demanded 996. Small gangs bully men and women, but even those mutants who live a peaceful life are likely to embark on the path of antisocial, so SHIELD will also monitor those mutants who have not done bad things. This kind of thing is very complicated to say, because no one wants their neighbors to be able to hold submachine guns, RPGs, and other weapons at any time. Even if the neighbors promise that they will not fire, who can believe it? Therefore, mutants want to live a peaceful life, but as long as their abilities are exposed, they are likely to be reported. And S.H.I.E.L.D.'s monitoring system is very unhuman. It is common practice to install monitors and listeners in the target's home. There are very few mutants who can tolerate privacy exposure and constant surveillance. If they lose their jobs due to the inspection, they don't even have to resist. But overall, this monitoring system is still very useful. Under the surveillance of S.H.I.E.L.D., the chances of mutants committing crimes are greatly reduced, and the target is often killed by the action team at the very beginning of action. Coulson felt that the mutants he investigated should live in poverty and committed crimes as a last resort. Their targets were the capitalists and people with a certain social status. According to Coulson's investigation, this Senator Ricky White, the White family to which she belonged, was a member of the Salem witch trials. And those two mutants should have just acquired the ability and were extremely unskilled in manipulating it. So they ran to the suburbs to use their ability. They probably didn't want to hurt others, otherwise the senator and his bodyguard would not be alive. Thinking of this, Coulson relaxed a little. They were people in need of help, and he was sure to appease the emotions of these two mutants. But the problem now is that SHIELD can't find them at all. This place is in the suburbs, there is no surveillance, and there are no cars parked here, so it is impossible to check the driving recorder. Just when he was at a loss, a new clue came to him. Agent Sitwell found the waitress in the coffee shop opposite the city hall. In the impression of this waitress with brown hair, there were two people wearing strange clothes yesterday. Customers, and the reason she was impressed was that one of them was very edible, and the other was very good looking. The monitoring records of the coffee shop have been transferred to the SHIELD computer. Coulson, who arrived at the coffee shop, took the tablet and looked at the monitoring. Child. Although the surveillance was a little blurry, Coulson could still see the height ratio of Salomon and other people in the surveillance after adjustments by the technicians, and the photographed face of Salomon confirmed his identity. Guess. It can only be said that Salomon was very secretive. He only remembered to cover his face at the scene of the robbery, but he forgot to do so in the coffee shop, but it is understandable, he thought that the action could not be so rough. The brown-haired waitress nodded, and she said, looks like 12 or 13 years old. Coulson nodded. He was glad he didn't ask Melinda for help now. Facing the mutant who was also a child would most likely evoke Melinda's painful memories of Bahrain Island again. Although the title of Iron Cavalry is very handsome, it makes Melinda feel deeply in self-blame. What kind of clothes are they wearing? Coulson pointed to the video on the surveillance screen. This fat man is dressed like an oriental monk. I've seen that monk before, and this kid, a wizard. The waitress shrugged. As I said before, Salem is a tourist town, so it is not strange to dress like a wizard, and the red robe that Salomon was wearing also made Coulson sure that the one in the high-temperature center was Salomon. Okay, thank you for your help, we won't disturb your work. After Coulson asked the waitress to leave, he looked at Sitwell. What? Sitwell blinked, but the light reflected from his eyes made Coulson unable to see his eyes clearly. Apply for surveillance monitoring. Coulson sighed. He really didn't want to do anything to a child, but according to his guess, these two mutants should not be the heinous ones, because Coulson planned to kill a child on his own. Terms of reference to help them as much as possible. But unfortunately, even if we found all the surveillance cameras in Salem town, we didn't see Salomon and Master Wang leaving Salem town, which almost made SHIELD Master Xiao Wang is a local, or a tourist driving a private car, because there are no targets on the long-distance buses leaving the town. We're completely out of leads, Sitwell said. Go to the ID database and do facial recognition. Coulson was silent for a while, picked up the teacup and took a sip of coffee. Why is this coffee more sour than instant coffee? The momentary distraction did not interrupt Coulson's thinking. And he finally nodded in agreement. The mutants this time were extremely dangerous, and Coulson couldn't imagine what kind of tragedy would happen if the target lost control in a confined space, such as an elevator or a bus. Coulson must find him as soon as possible. After about an hour, when Coulson could no longer stand the waitress who brought the extremely sour coffee with a smile, Agent Sitwell came to remind him that the target's identity information had been found. Coulson fled his seat as if pardoned. That's the goal. Sitwell pointed to the computer. Coulson looked, it was the same face as in the surveillance. Salomon de Monet. English. Live in London. Date of birth, December 1995, 12. End of this chapter. Chapter 16. Shield agents are professional. After Coulson found Salomon's address, he planned to visit alone, but even though he was kind, he was still a SHIELD agent and a professional. In the face of a target that may lose control at any time, he has notified the action team to stand by. Coulson took another deep breath, filling his lungs with icy cold air, increasing the oxygen content in his blood and energizing his nerves. For this operation, he must be prepared for the opponent to lose control. If necessary, he must draw the gun and kill the opponent as quickly as possible, even if it is a child. A small museum, there's no need to be so serious, Agent Sitwell said into the headset. Maybe the goal is to put that ring in a museum, and make up a good story to attract tourists, so as to save it horrible visitor flow. Do you know what I saw? This museum has almost zero visitor flow. Even from a distance, we didn't see many people coming in and out. Coulson, this kind of private museum in London, right? Yes, there are some in the attic. Maybe you can see an old lady lying on an easy chair as soon as you open the door. Are you sure you don't need to act with me? Sitwell, this is the first time I know that you like to joke so much. Don't worry, I have experienced this kind of mission many times, and you all know that we are all level authorities. Coulson replied with a smile. He knew his colleagues wanted to put him at ease, because this time the target's abilities were dangerous and there was a risk of losing control. But Coulson still planned to visit alone. He said, I also know how bad the operation of this museum is, so I didn't conduct a pre-investigation. I am worried that the target's mood will be unstable, and many strangers will suddenly come together. Visiting can lead to a stress response on the other side. If it can be resolved peacefully, I still don't want to use violence. Well, if you insist. Sitwell gave up persuading, but remember, be careful of the old lady is the final boss in horror games. I will remember. After finishing speaking, Coulson showed a good-natured smile. Even though he was wearing a pair of dark black sunglasses, it still couldn't stop his innate affinity. But an agent cannot be unguarded. He gestured behind him, indicating that the action team members were ready, and then carefully pushed open the door of the old museum. The museum is not big, it is empty, There are no booths, no exhibits, no figures, and no traces of life. The only suspicious thing is that the brown wooden floor is extremely smooth, as if it was just waxed not long ago. Now Carlson can be sure that this building has a certain age, even if the floor is well maintained. Some signs of aging. It is also inevitable. He walked lightly on the ground, the sound of his leather shoes colliding with the floor was absorbed by the special heels, and the entire building was filled with eerie silence. Carlson looked around, put a hand into his suit jacket, and quietly put his hand on the pistol. He was quite sure that his target, Salomon de Monet, lived here, because according to the London Adoption Agency, Salomon was adopted here. But the current situation made him have an even worse guess, that is, there is an organization here that is consciously collecting mutant children and cultivating them as their own money-making tools. They even mastered the technology to find mutants before they awakened, and this museum might just be a place where they meet temporarily. This kind of speculation shocked Carlson even more, because according to the British government's information, Salomon de Monet had been adopted, but the adopter's information was vacant. This shows what? This shows that this organization also has certain power within the British government. Snort, the decaying empire on which the sun never sets exudes the stench of the old landlord class everywhere. Carlson felt that it was necessary for him to check whether the British Children's Rights Protection Agency cooperated with those unknown organizations to persecute more innocent children. At that moment, Carlson's heart was filled with a sense of mission. He was determined to follow this organization for a long time. For the sake of those mutant children who have been persecuted and those who have not yet been persecuted, he must continue to handle this case. He thought of a person. Saving the mutant children might give Melinda a sense of atonement and help her recover from what happened in Bahrain. In a short moment, Carlson thought a lot. He relaxed his vigilance slightly. Although he still did not let go of the gun in his hand, he still pressed his other hand on the earphone. Let the action team search, there is no one here. Of course, Carlson couldn't find Salomon. Now Salomon is wandering the streets of Hong Kong. He has no idea that because of him, someone has already recognized Hermitage as a den of thieves. The street near the Hong Kong Temple is one of the most lively places he could find, and the food sold here is quite to his taste, so it is obvious why he didn't go to London or New York. Of course it's because there's nothing good to eat there. Where can you eat bamboo noodles in London and New York, as well as refreshments such as shrimp dumplings, siu mai, etc. How do foreigners know about these? Of course, the more important reason is that Wu Giu, the guardian of the Hong Kong Temple, heard that Salomon was attacked by a black wizard. Just order chicken soup to replenish your body. How can ghosts know how to stew chicken soup? They all use pressure cookers. Wu Giu was very excited when he mentioned this. To make soup, you must use a casserole. Oh, Auntie is not talking about you. What does ghost mean? You don't need to understand. For a moment, Salomon didn't know where to complain. He could only gently pinch the small face of Wu Giu's daughter, Alice Gulliver, and Alice looked at him helplessly. As a dead house, he knew that this was the pinnacle of his life. Speaking of Carlson, the museum he discovered was actually Hermitage's London Temple. As for the reason why he couldn't see anyone, it was also very simple. When he opened the door, he had already walked into a mirrored space. Hermitage's space control magic is the best in the universe. When non-Hermitage members open the door, they will automatically enter a mirror space that has been generated, and this mirror space can be revoked at any time. Generated, the purpose of this is to prevent unrelated people from breaking into the London Temple. It was the equivalent of 2 doors to the London Temple, and Carlson just pushed the wrong one. As for why Salomon's status is adopted in the information of the Children's Rights and Interests Protection Agency, it is even simpler. A simple enchantment spell can make people from the Child Rights Protection Agency fill in the information on the form. Even if it is false, as long as they don't go back and check it carefully, they will never find anything suspicious on the form. So Carlson's attempt to track down the organization that he guessed was collecting mutant children is doomed to failure, because such an organization does not exist at all. Most of those who left the museum were apprentices of Hermitage, and they were accompanied by official mages when they left the temple. They only needed to open a portal to return to Hermitage. Shield can't catch Hermitage's tail. End of this chapter. Chapter 17 The First Glimpse of the Dark Dimension. We don't know when humans invented the first mirror. At first, humans just looked at the water, just like Narcissus in ancient Greece saw his own reflection, and humans recognized their own image. In many ancient cultures, the reflection in the water is often considered to be the soul of a person, and seeing one's own reflection is often a very dangerous thing, so when the first mirror was created, humans naturally took it considered to be a magical artifact. The fact is also the same. The first props for human beings to spy on other worlds are mirrors. Although the scenes reflected in the mirrors may not be real, the mirrors can echo the objects reflected, such as the environment, such as reality, such as people. Therefore, in many legends, there is another world in the mirror. When Salomon was about to practice spells, His Holiness provided a safer place, which was the mirror dimension. And to enter the mirror dimension, the easiest way is to wear the hanging ring of Kamataj. In Salomon's view, such things as hanging rings are completely a shortcut prepared by His Holiness for the mages of Karmataj. The Venerable engraved spells on the suspension ring, and by using the suspension ring, the mages of Kamataj can easily use the advanced magic of the portal. Hook, not its spell attainments. This kind of lazy behavior can indeed save a lot of trouble, and it can also give Karmataj's mages unparalleled mobility. Even the Supreme Mage sometimes uses hanging rings. The reason why the Supreme Sorcerer chose to conduct this lesson today is in the mirror dimension, not only because practicing spells in the mirror dimension will not cause damage in reality, but also because His Holiness does not want other Kamataj mages to know that they should not know thing. Salomon, your stigmata are the proof of a wise man, the proof of being qualified to achieve true wisdom, and the stigmata have brought you knowledge. The Venerable wore a black esoteric robe and stood beside Salomon. In front of her, she said, but there are endless dangers in this universe, which you have never seen before, and you must have a real experience. Dangerous. Salomon looked down at his hands. He wore the same black mystic robes as his Venerable, but on the outermost layer he wore a coat made of red relic cloth. On Salomon's body. After the last holy relic cloth was burned, the Venerable took out a new holy relic cloth to make a vestment, and added protective spells to it. Although Salomon can initially control the power of the stigmata, the Venerable still thinks that he needs to be restrained, otherwise the powerful stigmata will endlessly refine his vitality. After undergoing a treatment, Salomon became much thinner, his hair was cut short, and he looked much colder. Yes. The Venerable nodded and said, for example, Domamu, he is staring at this planet all the time, trying to swallow the earth into his dark dimension. Only a few senior mages in Kamataj have heard of this name, but this is a lesson they have never experienced, and I chose to let you learn it. What to learn? Learn about balance. The Venerable put his hand between Salomon's eyebrows, and performed the astral travel spell. This is the first time that Salomon has accepted astral travel. This spell is the manifestation of soul and spirit, and there is no difference between his astral body and physical manifestation. Immediately afterwards, the Supreme Mage couldn't help but push hard towards Salomon's spirit body, and Salomon felt that he was falling at an extremely fast speed, and he fell into a colorful tunnel. Everything around, whether it is the starlight or the scene, is distorting rapidly, and the rapid color change almost makes Salomon's spiritual body feel a strong sense of vomiting. Salomon feels so small, he can't help himself, so fast skimming one after another dimension and space. But soon he was relieved, and when he passed through a dark curtain, he stopped falling, and he saw a dark and dead space. Here, countless broken planets are dyed black, with deformed and weird limbs growing out, like disgusting sarcoma. All objects in this starry sky are covered with dark and viscous energy, and disgusting colorful streamers spreading above. Salomon opened his eyes wide to see, but he couldn't remember any scene here. Those grotesque colors in the darkness flooded into his pupils, and there was a never-ending sound in his ears that was enough to make people feel sick. Whispering madly, Salomon walked slowly between those planets like an ant. He didn't know how long he had been here. Time had lost his concept here, and he was constantly being baptized by those crazy words. Just when Salomon thought he was about to go crazy, he saw a huge face, which seemed to be made of viscous black energy, and one eye was as big as a star planet. When the owner of that face saw Salomon, he let out a deafening roar. The sound made Salomon's spirit body tremble and the deformed planet burst. Even if Salomon covered his ears, he couldn't stop it. The voice came into his soul. It seemed to be a curse, it seemed to be a curse, and Salomon couldn't hear anything. The huge palm waved by the owner of that face from the darkness suddenly slapped towards Salomon. Salomon seemed to be standing under a toppled mountain. The palm was accompanied by strong winds and meteorites. When he looked up, he could only see the shadow that could cover the entire planet oppressing him. And the horror of this huge monster falling from the sky made him tremble uncontrollably. When Salomon woke up, he found that he was still in the mirror space of Karmataj, and His Holiness was sitting opposite him. Salomon was sitting cross-legged on the ground. Yes, those chaotic whispers and dizziness were still in his head, and now all he wanted was to get the contents of his stomach out and get some sleep. That's... He forced himself together and asked the Venerable. Dormammu, the Lord of the Dark Dimension. The Venerable's expression did not change. I think you have already seen him. Salomon suppressed the feeling of vomiting and nodded. In fact, the education given to Salomon by the Supreme Master is completely different from the education given to Strange in the future. Mam's trap, so Strange only had a glimpse of the Dark Dimension at first, and for Salomon, the Ancient One chose to let him face the Dark Dimension, and the Venerable wanted to pass on what he knew about the Dark Dimension. Everything is taught to Salomon. The Venerable's expectations for the two are different, because she intends to make Salomon bear a heavier burden, because the Supreme Master knows that Salomon has innate knowledge, even if he does not enter Kamatage, Salomon in the future, she can also become a powerful enough mage, so she forcibly placed this burden on Salomon. In this sect, if someone is face, someone has to be face, the face must not be stained with dust, and if it bleeds, the face must be contained, if it cannot be contained, if it leaks to the face, it will be a major event that destroys the sect and destroys the section. To save face and invite someone to eat a cigarette, it may be necessary to get rid of a person in face. If the future Strange is the face of Karmatage, then His Holiness intends to let Salomon be the face of Karmatage. The Ancient Master not only absorbed the magic power of Vizandi, but also the reason why she is so powerful. Part of the reason is that she has absorbed enough magic power from the Dark Dimension. These magic powers make her far stronger than ordinary mages, stronger than many demon gods, and even allow her to fight God King Odin with a human body. Contend. Salomon didn't know about this, but even if he knew about it, he wouldn't have any complaints against the Supreme Mage in his heart. He is not the protagonist of Long Aotian's novels. Everyone must treat him well for free. This is impossible. Salomon never feels how important he is, and the so-called domineering spirit does not exist. Knowing how lazy he is, he can't sit when he can lie down. And the Venerable had a plan for raising a child without relatives and no reason, and Salomon knew it well. In fact, even if the Supreme Mage does not guide Salomon to explore the Dark Dimension, with his exploration of knowledge and curiosity about magic, sooner or later, Salomon will explore by himself, and now he has an experienced mentor. Good thing. So Salomon nodded and said that he was very interested in the Dark Dimension. But even so, the Venerable still felt a little guilty, because she knew how dangerous the Dark Dimension was, but she pushed Salomon into it. Perhaps this was the reason why the Venerable subconsciously treated Salomon preferentially. Balance and restraint are what you need to learn, Salomon. The Venerable lowered his head and picked up the teacup, not wanting Salomon to see his expression. This is your first lesson. End of this chapter. Chapter 18 Tritaglia. From that day on, Salomon has to accept the personal teaching of the Supreme Mage every day, although other mages of Karmatage can ask the Venerable if they have any questions. But everyone's knowledge is different, and the spells in Weishandi's book are enough for them to practice all their lives. And Salomon not only wants to learn the magic in the book of Weishandi, but also to see the truth of the Dark Dimension. Knowing the horror of the Dark Dimension, the Supreme Mage was extremely careful when guiding Salomon. Whenever Salomon couldn't bear those whispers or was discovered by Dormammu, the Venerable would pull Salomon's astral body back in time. Therefore, Salomon's external performance is only pale, and his body does not appear the phenomenon of crystallization of flesh and blood that occurs when he is soaked by the Dark Dimension. But even such a course has greatly increased the burden on Salomon. His lack of energy prevents him from casting more magic. She is the only one in the entire universe who can confidently and forcibly plunder the magic power of the Dark Dimension like the Ancient One. However, Salomon is still too immature. Until one day, the Supreme Mage suspended Salomon's course of exploring the dark space. You need to visit a person, or a god. His Holiness pointed to the chubby snake on Salomon's table. She has already given you help, now, you should go and hear what conditions she has. Gone. Salomon looked sad. In Greek mythology, the goddess Athena didn't have a good temper. Salomon remembered the story of Alcmene who turned into a spider, and none of the gods in charge of law and order was easy to talk to. Although Athena is not the real god in charge of the priesthood in the Toril universe, but she can have this part of the god name, which means that she has such a character. Seemingly seeing Salomon's worries, His Holiness said in a gentle tone, "The reason why I can tolerate Athena's return to earth is precisely because she can abide by the order I established. I will never tolerate anyone who revives the age of gods on earth, not even Zeus. You can go at ease. I think she must be begging you this time, and you can try to get some benefits back." Are you asking for me? Salomon raised his head in surprise. He really couldn't imagine a Greek god asking for a little mage. But the supreme sorcerer didn't see it that way. She said, "Don't underestimate yourself, Salomon, you are special, and she must have seen your talent in the British Museum, so she helped a mortal. Go, don't waste time, bring a gift, the snake will show you the way." According to the Supreme Master, the current Athena alias is her name Minerva in Roman mythology. She also wrote a book called The Hero's Journey, which describes in detail the various conflicts between facts and myths. Contact, but the sales volume is not too ideal. To find her, you must go to Mount Athena in New York, where she runs an orphanage. Salomon's heart was finally relieved, because he remembered the reputation of the Ancient One Master. This reputation was not created by Wei Shandy, but by the Ancient One Master himself. According to Master Guyi, the Greek pantheon was one of the most restless pantheons on earth at that time, and they were also involved with a race called the Eternal Race, and they asked the Eternal Race to act as representatives of the Greek gods on earth. Although Salomon is not clear about the specific incident, he believes that there are no Eternals and other Greek gods on the earth now, and he can probably guess a little bit by calculating the time when the ancient mage rose. Thinking back when the Venerable was born, the Ring of Raggetter's mutation slaughtered many alien creatures who wanted to enter the earth. Salomon believed that the so-called gods on the earth were no exception. Mage Ancient One is the strongest magician in the multiverse, and now he is full of confidence in his teacher. When Salomon emerged from a remote alley, he came to the streets of New York. He put the chubby little white snake into his sleeve. Although the feeling of the cold scales wrapped around his arm made him a little uncomfortable, he still endured it, because His Holiness had clearly instructed that this pet would be he finds the key to Athena. He felt that under his sleeve, the chubby little snake became restless. It was talking here and sticking out its tongue there, only then did it determine its direction. "Are you sure it's there? Is the direction you're facing a straight line?" Salomon asked, looking at the round eyes of the little snake, and Salomon immediately saw the contempt in the eyes of a snake. "Mood." Salomon said helplessly, "Little guy, I don't have a parcel tongue, I'm not a druid, I don't know those natural magic spells, I can't understand what you said at all. I think shaking my head and nodding can solve the problem, right?" Many people on the street were attracted by Salomon, and it was all because he was wearing a very eye-catching red robe, and those silver chain buttons made the dress look quite expensive, making it even more eye-catching. A snake was tightly wrapped around his arm, which made those passers-by afraid to avoid it. But Salomon didn't have any self-awareness at all. His attention was all on the little snake. This snake was like an arrow floating on the screen in the game, leading Salomon to his destination. Salomon stood in front of the door of a white apartment, knocked lightly, and the door opened. A tall and slender woman stood at the door. She was wearing a white light home suspender pajamas, with Greek key patterns embroidered with golden silk thread on the edge of the clothes. Her face is extremely beautiful, and her height is much taller than that of the 12-year-old Salomon. Her long golden curly hair is very thick, and it hangs on her fair shoulders and collarbone like light flowing water. Her arms are not as slender as ordinary women, but not too thick. When she stretched out her hand, the extremely beautiful muscles were highlighted. "Hello, Tritaglia, the goddess who created Art. Note 1, Pallas, the maiden of Athens, Salomon Damanit is happy to serve you." When Athena jumped from Salomon's arm when Shang took the little snake, he didn't dare to move, but greeted the god, holding a bottle of wine with both hands. "This is a gift for you. I know your name, come in." Athena smiled and took the gift. She opened the door and let Salomon walk in. I don't know if it is because of the priesthood, Athena's apartment is full of ancient Greek-style marble sculptures, some of which are plated with gold. In the center of the living room, there is a huge white woolen rug, even the sofa is white, and there are a few apples for guests on the table, and a brown owl stands on the windowsill. "Why are you so reserved?" Athena poured him a glass of water, and saw Salomon sitting on the sofa. She asked, "Do you really believe in those myths?" This made Salomon not know how to open his mouth for a while. But Athena just waved her hand, and she said, "I've tried my best to correct the errors in the myth, but it will be regarded as nonsense. Those young people who don't understand anything, well, back to the point. Are you wondering why I'm assisting you at the British Museum, are you?" "Yes, Pi Tau Nu Iota Alpha, goddess, specifically Athena, I don't see how I can help you at all." Salomon replied. "Didn't your teacher tell you that you are really humble?" Athena said with a smile, "You are the one who can obtain the true biography of the Supreme Mage. Of course I want to ask you for help, but not now, but the future. End of this chapter. Chapter 19 Pegasus. The true biography of the Supreme Mage? Salomon had a puzzled expression on his face. Ever since he traveled through the dark dimension, he would not naively think that the true biography of the Supreme Mage refers to the magic of Wei Shanti. The Book of Vizandi is placed in the most prominent position on the bookshelf in the library, and any mage of Kamatage can read it. Kamatage is not Hogwarts, and there is still a final exam. How much magic you can learn and how much magic you want to learn is your own business. His Holiness will teach the spells of Vizandi to all members of the Magister's Priory open, nothing hidden. The hidden part is about the spells of the dark dimension. Salomon knows the danger of that part of knowledge. Although there is part of the knowledge about how to communicate with Dormammu in the library, the further secrets are killed by the Venerable. Death is hidden. Seeing Salomon's somewhat unnatural expression, Athena laughed out loud. The young man was indeed still young. She said, "In front of me, the Supreme Master is also a young man, but more than 1,000 years old. The dark dimension is not a big secret for an existence like me." Salomon wanted to run away. He really couldn't imagine how the Supreme Mage faced this group of immortals. The knowledge brought by a long lifespan makes everything about ordinary people completely secret in their eyes, not to mention that Athena is also the goddess of wisdom. Salomon is very sure that the woman in front of her is not low in magic skills. But I respect the strength of the Supreme Mage. She has this strength to sit on an equal footing with the Father God. Even when Athena was sitting on the sofa, she was like an Amazon female warrior. Although she was charming and moving, her words were still strongly offensive. She said, "I follow the contract, but it doesn't mean that other Greek gods are happy to do so. They are just forced to bow to the magic of the Supreme Mage. Haven't you ever thought that the Supreme Mage has achieved immortality through magic? Why still want to train you?" "You mean?" Salomon narrowed his eyes, and in a flash, he thought a lot. His Holiness' plan to abandon the body has already begun. For His Holiness, she has carried the safety of the earth on her shoulders for more than 1,000 years. This responsibility really made her feel tired, coupled with the erosion of the dark space. Salomon very much agreed that His Holiness could enjoy retirement quietly and explore the mysteries of the universe. But Salomon thought of Odin again. Odin's lifespan is no longer a secret in the 9 realms. Back then, Odin and the Supreme Mage were tied, and the earth became a vassal state of Asgard, maintaining its independence. But now Thor, the eldest prince of Asgard, has not shown the wisdom that a prince should have. It is hard to say whether Odin has reached an agreement with the Venerable. The Father of the Gods may worry that the earth will be separated from the 9 worlds after his death. The Supreme Mage led the Mage Hermitage to counterattack Asgard and other things, so the Venerable would carry out the escape and Odin's death at the same time, otherwise it is difficult to say whether Odin will be at the end of his life to express Asgard. God's Majesty set the goal of killing chickens and monkeys on the earth. What's more, for powerhouses like Odin and the Venerable, physical death does not mean the end of life. At the same time, Salomon also somewhat understood why His Holiness chose him to study the knowledge of the dark dimension. In addition to the reason of the stigmata, I think Salomon's own personality is also very suitable. He is really too lazy, and his almost desireless personality is really elusive. If Dormammu used power to tempt him, Salomon would not even look at him straightly. If Dormammu whispered in Salomon's ear, maybe he would open his mouth with a set of obscenities. Even Domamo will not let any female member of the previous 18 generations go. How many times when Salomon was discovered by Dormammu while traveling in the dark dimension, he would use his mouth to attack the Lord of the dark dimension with his mouth, knowing that he could not resist. Anyway, everyone is destined to die endlessly relationship, so why be polite? But in the face of the Supreme Master's accusation, Salomon could only make excuses that those words were all seen on the internet. As for causing Kamatage to be disconnected from the internet for a few days, it was none of his business. If Dormammu lures Salomon with knowledge, he may be tempted, because to Salomon, only magic can interest him. And the Venerable is training in this aspect. Temperance and balance, how to correctly curb one's curiosity, is exactly what the Venerable wants to teach Salomon, and it is precisely because of balance and Vizandi and Dormammu the magic power will be as powerful as it is today. And what Athena said, Salomon also thought about it. When the Venerable puts down the burden, the multiverse will know about it, and the various demon gods who were suppressed by the Venerable before are likely to launch a carnival and launch a gluttonous feast to share the earth. And the new Supreme Mage has not yet fully grown, so Salomon is needed to prop up the facade of Karmatage, just like what the Supreme Mage did back then. Salomon used his greatest malice to speculate, and he could guess the attitude of the Greek gods. It was hard to say that they would not have no resentment towards the supreme mage. At that time, both Zeus and Hades will tentatively rebuild Mount Olympus on Earth. The young mage looked suspiciously at the blonde goddess. He couldn't figure out whether Athena's relationship with the rest of the Greek gods was good or bad. It's hard to say that Athena is not a spy of the Greek gods, trying to test the attitude of the supreme mage towards the return of the Greek gods, but now that His Holiness agrees with Athena to stay on Earth, it means that there is still something to talk about. The vision of the supreme mage is not wrong. It seems that you have guessed something. Athena nodded after seeing Salomon's changed expression. Although she could not read the thoughts in Salomon's heart, the wisdom of the light is enough to speculate that it is close to 10. She said, I hope you will continue the mission of the supreme sorcerer and keep those gods from the earth. I don't think this is enough for you to choose to lend a helping hand to me at the British Museum. Salomon said blankly. Are likely to hide a sharp knife. I will live with your permission in the future, and this is a deal. Athena spread her palm, and there was a small white sculpture in her palm, which was only half the size of her palm. The lifelike Pegasus has a fine gilt bridle on the head of the white Pegasus. Salomon couldn't tell what material it was made of, because the surface was as smooth as marble, but not as cold as imagined. Pegasus. Salomon could only think of this, the only Pegasus related to Athena, isn't that the Pegasus? Do you think it's possible? As I said, don't confuse the myths written by humans with reality. You should read the books I wrote. That's the truth. Athena was a little dissatisfied, but out of the awe of the supreme mage and Sasha Luomeng's apology made her look better. She said, even Zeus has no ability to arrange the stars, and the so-called Pegasus is even more nonsense. Pegasus is just my exclusive summoned creature. I lent this horse to Bellerophon to help him get rid of the chimera. And now, I'm lending it to you for a period, until the end of your life. End of this chapter. Chapter 20 Aegis. The life form of Pegasus made Salomon a little curious, because the first thing he thought of when he saw this statuette was a very famous summoned beast. The summoned beast was a good companion to a male drow ranger who still haunts the northlands of Faerun. That's right, that's Gwenhwyvar, a magical creature from the astral world. The so-called astral world is a huge, boundless sphere, surrounded by a clear silver sky above and below. A small amount of solid matter is occasionally found there, but calling the astral world a plane is an inaccurate statement. In fact, the astral world should not be called a plane at all. It is a purely spiritual world. Silver void. Salomon raised the statue to his eyes and carefully observed the fine carvings. Now he can almost confirm that the so-called Pegasus is actually a magical creature from the astral world, similar to the legendary Medusa and Pose. Winter doesn't really matter much. He didn't know how Athena or other Greek gods captured the Pegasus from the astral world, but he kept an eye out. Although Athena repeatedly claimed that the Greek myths written by humans were far from the truth, if Athena really lent Bellerophon Pegasus, then Pegasus threw Bellerophon from the sky, turning him into lame and blind is a fact. After holding the Pegasus statue in his palm, Salomon bowed to Athena to thank him, but if he only looked at the superficial etiquette, he did nothing wrong. But Athena is the goddess of wisdom in the Greek pantheon, and she easily saw Salomon's concerns. She leaned forward and asked Salomon with a heavy sense of oppression, aren't you satisfied? Salomon lowered his head even lower. 12 years old is the time of growth, and Athena's clothes are too loose. He did not dare to look at it after sneaking a glance. Because it is indeed a bit big, no matter the shape, size, or even the color is very good. Under the action of endocrine, this kind of scene is still too exciting for him at this age, it cannot be controlled by thought. No, Your Highness, I have been very surprised by this gift. Although his breathing became a little rough, Salomon's thoughts were not confused, and his answer was still correct. Athena noticed the problem when she lowered her head a little, but she didn't straighten up immediately, but moved closer, compared to the ancient Greek decorations in the room. Athena's clothing is closer to a mixture of the Mycenaean period of Crete and native Greek women's clothing, with a slender waist, a metal belt, and a conical, layered, exquisite, and gorgeous skirt, but in order to conform to the times, her upper body is similar to the smooth and spacious Gitong Note 1, but now there are no pins on the shoulders, but slender laces, and the material has changed from sheepskin to soft cotton. As a member of the Greek pantheon that has been formed and developed since the time of Crete, Athena has no psychological barriers to showing her breasts. On the contrary, she likes it as her weapon, because she thinks her beauty is worth it. Appreciate and be proud of. Indeed, Salomon almost hid behind the sofa. Although Athena is a virgin goddess, she never shied away from the admiration of men. And compared to pure admiration, she prefers to be respected by heroes, so Athena will also raise young heroes, and she has the title of Mother of Heroes. Perhaps in her opinion, Salomon is an excellent metal. If she is taught to raise it, maybe Salomon can become a great hero. A real man should fight with a spear instead of learn the magic of what pussy chirping. Although Sorcerer Supreme is strong, Iron and Blood is more suitable for heroes. It's just that Master Guyi has already arranged the educational steps of Salomon, and Athena is not allowed to intervene, otherwise it will be too much. Maybe there's a chance to teach Salomon how to fight with spear and shield? Regarding this point, the Supreme Mage will never refuse, right? Athena's thoughts turned quickly, and now she only thought about how to get in touch with Salomon. After all, although she smelled the dark dimension from Salomon, she didn't see the crystallization reaction that should appear, so then it shows that Salomon has indeed withstood the test of the dark dimension. How can such a person not be a hero? If Salomon knew what Athena was thinking, he might have laughed out loud. He couldn't be a hero, he would only accomplish what he was supposed to accomplish. The so-called greater ability comes with greater responsibility has always been his fart. The truth is that with great power comes great responsibility. He will protect what he wants to protect because of the power he enjoys and the kindness of the Supreme Mage. Confucius said a long time ago that if he is not in his position, he will not seek his own government. Salomon intends to do the same. His goal will always be on the mysterious side. No matter what the secular government does, he will go to participate, as long as people who have seen the magnificent starry sky, they will definitely not bow their heads and play like dogs. It is not unwarranted arrogance that Karmataj has always placed herself in a lofty position. Athena seemed to think of something, she straightened her body with a smile. Stood up, and left the living room, leaving Salomon panting in the living room. After a while, she went back and forth, while still holding a round object covered in sheepskin. This is my shield, Aegis. She stretched out her white and soft arm, and placed the object in front of Salomon. You should have heard the story of this shield. When Athena suddenly lifted the sheepskin covering the shield, Salomon couldn't help closing his eyes. The story of this shield is so classic. Anyone who has studied Greek mythology will know that the center of Athena's shield is inlaid with Medusa's head. Anyone who sees this shield will be petrified, even if it is legendary. The behemoth Kraken is no exception. Don't worry, you are not immortal, as long as you don't want that Medusa's head to work, no one will be petrified. After hearing Athena's voice, Salomon opened his eyes a little, and looked at the shield with extreme caution. The shield was made of copper, with a little gold, and there were 4 diamond-shaped marks on the round shield. In the middle is a sculpture of a snake-haired woman's head. The woman's face is painful, but she never opened her eyes. This shield is not just as simple as a shield. It is both a shield and armor. Athena said with a smile, this is also my love for you, Salomon. Poor Salomon suddenly blushed. This is what Athena thought of to satisfy her eccentricity. As long as Salomon took her shield in battle, anyone would know that Salomon was related to her. As long as Salomon did heroic deeds, see, when it comes to the enemy petrified by the shield, people will naturally think of Athena. This kind of thing is within the allowable range of the Supreme Mage. Both Modu and Cassilis in Kamataj have complete personality defects. Although the new Supreme Mage in the future has been determined, it is too late to grow. So the Supreme Master also hopes that the stronger Salomon is, the better. This trip has been very fruitful for Salomon. 2 powerful magic items can improve his strength a lot, at least when he is still a low-level mage, he will be safe. But as a condition, he had to visit Athena's apartment frequently, at least once a month, because Athena saw Salomon's performance. To become a hero, one must be able to face beauty indifferently. Athena intends to train Salomon well in this area, and at the same time teach some art knowledge. In Athena's view, Kamataj, who pays attention to cleanliness, has no artistic accomplishment. This is force majeure. Salomon thought to himself, but that was really too big. End of this video. Like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for more novels like this.